Week before we get into that big Christmas/New Year's corridor right there. As you know, Christmas is Monday morning. That's when Santa Claus will have left whatever he's left for you. That means you only have a couple few days to get it all done, and maybe even less than that because of the weather forecast. You heard Big Don D out there telling you what's coming. The pictogram that I have here, and in no way am I casting aspersions on our good friend Geronimo, is awful. It is just the normal one is so easy for a man of my low intellect to get through. This one is a couple pages with pictures that have no colors, which makes it very difficult. So what I have here, I can't tell if this is for, yep, there it is. It says Sunday, which is Christmas Eve. We're going to get, it looks like snow. 35-degree high, 25-degree low. Monday, more snow. That was preceded on Saturday by rain to snow showers. So if you want to be done and all bundled up with the family, waiting for Santa to come down the chimney, you probably got to do it today or by midday tomorrow when things turn bad. And that includes, I'm now dreading, and I have to do this, I'm dreading going to Sam's Club. Because I presume sometime this afternoon, and you know how it is on Friday, folks. You know how it is on the Friday before Christmas. One, you can't find a person in federal government anywhere. If you're a federal government employee and you're listening right now, you're not going to work today. Almost positive, unless you're a member of some sort of three-letter agency that does a lot of law enforcement work. Maybe you get out of bed before noon. But otherwise, you got the day off. You know how it is. This is true of the military, too. I mean, listen, in no way do I want to suggest that we're not prepared for everything, but anybody who has served on active duty for more than 10 seconds knows that the military is brilliant at giving you 4-day weekends. They build in something called training holidays on the Friday before a 3-day weekend. And that means Thursday gets a little busy and then it slows way down and people just disappear. Phones stop being answered. That's just how it is. So for some of you, today represents the first, best, and perhaps last opportunity to go out there and get that last minute gift for somebody special. Let me tell you something I just discovered today. And again, I've griped before. I'm happy, by the way, to convert the entire show into what do the listeners think going into the Christmas 3-day weekend here, because there's a lot of news and there's things I want to cover. Don't get me wrong. But if there are things that are on your mind that you're thinking to yourself in a Festivus-like way, you know what, let's make this the Festivus show. This is how the sausage gets made. You got something that's bugging you. It doesn't have to be global, local, newsworthy. It could just be you. Just try to keep it clean, even in the 6 o'clock hour. But I'll tell you what happened. If you are a regular listener, you know that there's a huge a-hole that works at the post office down in Castle Rock. And I told this story about how guy feels like he's on a mission to make sure that any package that shows up with a P.O. box that isn't identified as P.O. box, but instead says suite or apartment, that thing gets summarily rejected. Not because the rules say it has to be that way, not because they can't take it that way. And it's not because that there are vendors out there online who don't give you another option. It's none of those things. It's because dude's just a dick. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. And so it looks like he got me again, because I had ordered something for somebody that I had received notice that it had been delivered to the post office and received by the post office. I go and pick up a bunch of gifts. Like I had been out of town, as you know, to Miami last weekend. A bunch of things showed up. My timing, I thought, was brilliant. So I go down there yesterday. I give the dude the little plastic parcel thing they stick in your P.O. box to say, hey, your stuff is bigger than the box that you rented. That's okay. They're nice about that. Guy comes back with an armful of packages and says, hey, are you Santa? And I'm like, no, just the gray hair, and screw you for that. And he laughs and he goes, I've got probably 2 more trips worth of boxes to come bring you. I'm like, what have I done? And so He ends up making those trips. I grab all the stuff. I bring it home. I think, oh, I've got everything I need. This is just going to be perfectly timed for the first time in forever. I'm not going to have to do any last minute shopping. And then in the early morning hours today, before I get up to do the show, I get an email from this place I'd ordered a piece of clothing from for somebody. And it says, your refund has been processed. And I'm like, refund? Why would there be a refund? I just picked up the package. Sure enough, that's not amongst the packages. It just got sent back, I presume, by a-hole at the post office. So incredibly frustrating because now I got to run out and do. Somebody texted in a very important question, and I'm going to answer it with yes question mark. So now I have to run out today. When at some point here, when I'm done with the show and I've wrapped up some other job related things, I'm going to have to get in the car and drive most likely to a place called the Cherry Creek Mall. And I'm horrified by it. That's where we're at least in terms of today. I should mention too, by the way, I just got a nice text and I forgot to say this. I love to give shouts out to people who are recognized for the great work that they do. And also, if you're on the YouTube and the Rumble right now, can you see this? This is, hold on, I'm angling the camera down. Oh yeah. Maybe I do the whole show just giving you the chest shot right over the coffee cup. There it is, folks. It's the Peanuts light up Christmas sweater. It's really a sweatshirt right here, but you can call it a sweater if you want to class it up. But it's got the lights going. I love this thing. I drag it out every year. I usually wear it for the military Christmas appreciation luncheon with all of the store-bought meat products you can possibly imagine, and Coke, a lot of Coke. And I don't mean the criminal kind. I mean the kind that will kill you. That's what's going on for me today. Lots of stuff in the news. Oh, look at this. Mark Crowley has just sent me a nice little weather update thing. Doesn't help now, Mark, because we've just, but thank you. Thank you for trying. Here's what's going on. There are so many stories out there that I want to comment on for today. And again, I have now convinced myself that for this last show before Christmas, because I'm invested in going into this holiday as stress-free and as joy-filled and happy as possible, let's leave it out all in the field today. Let's leave it all out there on the field today. If you had wanted to comment on, gripe, vent, or something about either this Christmas shopping experience or any of the news items that we've been covering and that are in there, pretty please give us a call at 303-696-1971. G will let me know when you're online, and we'll take those calls as they come in. There are a bunch of stories I want to talk about, some of which we have sound for. There is, I did not know this. And again, hats off to the folks at 9 News. A lot of you out there are like, no, it's that Kyle. Blah, blah. Listen, whatever you think about Kyle Clark, dude does a fantastic job as the host of the news there, one of the anchors. But the entire team, Marshall and Steve and the rest of those guys out there, do a great job of investigating stuff and bringing it to our attention in a way that a lot of lesser resource news outlets just can't do it anymore. Now, I'm also a big fan of the Kovalevskis and the others out there, the Sean Boyds, and I'm leaving some people out I don't mean to. The Carol McKinley's out of the Gazette. I mean, they're all fantastic. Dave McGoya, as you know, but 9 News has a lot of great resources. And that means that a lot of folks send them story ideas and they capitalize on them. Well, there is one that they just put up. I couldn't believe it because one, I'm a CU grad ×2, go Buffs, undergrad and law school. But I'm gonna, spoiler alert, I guess. I mean, I'm just going to give you the bottom line up front, which is a military thing, bluff. And that is, it appears that it is time to do away with, and you may have thought this all along, a certain part of the university. It's the ethnic studies part of the university. It turns out that the folks there are unabashed anti-Semites, and it has gone under the radar until 9 News reported on it and did an interview with Phil DeStefano, who's the CU chancellor. G has got some sound, and we're going to play this thing and set the story. And then I'm going to read to you their post from their website. By the way, a post they've now run from that they've changed reluctantly, and they've made that clear. But listen to this story. It's shocking. And then let's have a conversation about it at 303-696-1971. G, you have that sound?
I do. Here you go.
At CU Boulder, the university says anti-Semitism can be protected speech. Chancellor saying publicly for the first time that a condemnation of Israel by the university's ethnic studies department was anti-Semitic. But after an investigation, CU decided that it did not violate university policy. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
The lights are out in the Ethnic Studies Department offices at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and that's before winter break began. The department has been on self-imposed lockdown ever since it posted this statement on the department website on October 22nd. It's about the Israeli-Hamas conflict with no reference of Hamas. Quote, starting October 7th, we witness another unprecedented genocidal attack on the Palestinian people. No single person from the department signed this statement, which added, we also reject the language of terrorism used by the U.S. and Israel to justify the Israeli state killing machine.
When I first read the ethnic studies statement, I was shocked by it.
CU Boulder Chancellor Phil DeStefano put out two messages after the Ethnic Studies Department posted, then removed the statement, saying it was not an official CU Boulder position and that the school does not condone direct or indirect anti-Semitism, though neither of his statements said what he is now telling us.
My personal opinion was that it was anti-Semitic.
It tried to justify the vile atrocities that took place in Israel.
Megan Burmeister is the interim director of CU Boulder Hillel, the Jewish organization on hundreds of college campuses.
We need the university to hold the CU Boulder Ethnic Studies Department accountable for the harm that they've caused the Jewish community.
The university received feedback beyond CU Boulder Hillel.
Kind of pretty offensive and filled with hate speech.
We know because we asked for the records, like that voicemail. And these emails calling the ethnic studies statement disappointing. None of the emails we received in our records request appeared to be threatening, but once that feedback started coming in, the department went dark. The ethnic studies chair emailed faculty saying, please don't come in. Everyone should work remotely, including students. Also, please get into lockdown mode. In following emails, two assistant professors used the word fascist for those who disagreed with the statement or called it anti-Semitic, like CU Boulder's chancellor has now done. CU's Office of Institutional Equity and Compliance investigated the statement to determine if it violated discrimination or harassment policies. It was found to be constitutionally protected freedom of expression, which DeStefano defends, despite personally believing it's anti-Semitic.
Yes, I believe that, through academic freedom, they're able to make that statement.
A CU spokesman tells us that the Ethnic Studies Department had CU police open a case to investigate and determined that that department never received a threat. The chair of the department was not at the school when we found the door locked and the lights off. His phone appears to be disconnected now, and he has not responded to many of our emails.
Yeah, that was Marshall Zellinger reporting. It was on, I think, Next with Kyle Clark. I was blown away by the story because I thought to myself, where are we? And we have this conversation ongoing. Where are we with higher education? We just witnessed that clown show in front of Elise Stefanik, a Republican out of Staten Island, New York, at that hearing, where each one of these super woke, DEI-filled presidents of these elite institutions stumbled over themselves trying to condemn anti-Semitism and calls for the genocide of Jews. And then here at our own CU, little different, by the way, and let me make sure that you get this, if you're probably already thinking this, but let me just make it clear. CU is a public institution. That's different than the private ones. Remember when, what's her name, the former president of Penn, had said that, our policies consistent with the Constitution and all this stuff. They use that language because they're not bound by the Constitution. They're not a government actor. Well, CU is a government actor. It's paid for by your money and my money and all the other tuition stuff that goes there. So it's different for them. They can't take the same kind of action that a private institution can take. I acknowledge that. Don't care. I mean, at this point, we are seeing a higher education that is revealing itself to be devoid of any leadership or accountability and hell-bent on wasting educational dollars, not on teaching people a single usable thing in the next part of their lives after they're college students, but in furthering garbage. Like, please tell me, by the way, if you have a degree in ethnic studies, call in and tell me, what do you do productive with that degree? I make a blank, or I accomplish this on behalf of the community. I'm paid to blank. My guess is, if you have an ethnic studies degree, short of this recent explosion of the DEI industry, you're an academic. We're just having academics give birth to other academics. That's all we're doing. And now listen to this. Listen to this statement. And I can't get through the whole thing. I'm going to read to you. They pulled it down off their website now and mealy-mouthed some sort of an alternate pledge for peace garbage. We'll talk about that too, because we've got legislators under the Gold Dome who now are trying to put pressure on our congressional delegation, because the only thing that matters now is peace. Not the end of Hamas. It's peace. So listen to this. This is a statement they had up on their website on October the 22nd, about 2 weeks and a day after the evil terrorist organization, the baby beheading organization, raping, kidnapping terrorist organization, Hamas, invaded Israel and killed and kidnapped a whole bunch of defenseless, unsuspecting people. This is their statement. And they had put up something else that they reference in May, but this is the next sentence. Unfortunately, starting October the 7th, 2023, over 2 years later, and they're referencing an email that they'd had up at that point, or something on their website, we witness another unprecedented genocidal attack. Wait for it. On the Palestinian people. An intentional collective punishment and forced displacement with unprecedented levels of air bombings on civilians. This statement affirms our unwavering and continued commitment to a free Palestine. We stand with our Palestinian students, faculty, staff, and broader community to demand an immediate ceasefire as we continue to support complete liberation, deoccupation, decarceration, and decolonization of Palestine. Wow. By the way, didn't hear a single word about Hamas, not a single word about the Israelis who were butchered at the hands of the baby beheading Hamas members. Not a word about that. There's more, by the way. I'll tease you with this as we head into a break. This gets you a flavor for how broken the ethnic studies department is. And if there's a need for ethnic studies, I could be convinced of that. But it seems to me every single person who is currently paid by taxpayer dollars in that department needs to be let go. And we need to start over. And we need to find people who don't harbor hatred for Jews in their hearts. Can you only imagine what they teach people that take these classes? This has to be the hornet's nest of I hate America. Listen to the next sentence. Palestine is a feminist issue. It's just crazy. This isn't The Onion. You know what I mean? Like, this is on a website paid for by you and me, made by people paid for by you and me. Can you believe this? What possible value in the expansion of human knowledge and the pursuit of more of it can such an organization offer? I mean, listen, if you're a legislator and you're asked to increase the funding for CU by 1 penny, your immediate question ought to be, I'd love to talk with you about your anti-Semitic and I hate America ethnic studies department. What value do they bring to the state of Colorado? There's more to this thing. It's one of the craziest things, and it makes your stomach hurt because here it is. If Israel was not the victim of this, if this was some other woke loving DEI celebrating group, you know that we would still be wearing dark armbands around in classes, on the streets. We would cancel Christmas because frankly, it's Christ's and Santa's fault that all this happened to begin with. Somehow, you know what I'm talking about. This is where they would go with this. But when it's Israel, these people fall all over themselves to never utter a single word of condemnation of Hamas and then somehow turn it on. It's Israel's fault. You did this. You had to know this was coming. That's the mindset of criminals. That is the mind. I mean, I don't understand. I want to get somebody from CU administration on here to tell me why this is justified. I really respect Phil DeStefano, the CU chancellor, and I appreciate him coming out and saying, personally, I think it's anti-Semitic, but I think it's protected. Are you crazy? Protected? Sure. Nobody can outlaw you from saying it. Nobody can prevent you from saying it. But are you telling me that the University of Colorado is we're helpless to do anything other than to give it a platform? You've given it a whole damn department, man. The Department of Ethnic Studies / I Hate America and Jews. That is not a First Amendment issue. If CU got up this morning, Mr. or Mrs. CU, who's in charge, and just said, we're all done with the Ethnic Studies Department, we're going to scrap it and start over. And maybe there's some personnel rules that keep us from getting rid of these chuckleheads who pass themselves off as professors in that department. But you're telling me that we're powerless to do anything? Sure, don't condemn it. That's weak. That's cowardly. Don't condemn it. But how about we just end it? They don't have a right to have an ethnic studies department. They don't have a right to a website that's paid for by taxpayer money. Yeah, sure, we can't criminalize it. We can't stop them from doing it with their own money, but we don't have to subsidize it. There's nothing in the Constitution that suggests we have to subsidize that kind of I hate Jews rhetoric. And then when they're pushed back on, first off, these are the most gutless people I've ever seen. You know that the 9 News went through, and I love them for doing this, man, getting the CORE request, the Colorado Open Records Act request, and demanding these emails. And they got them all. And you know they're looking for an email that says, I'm going to come burn your house to the ground, or the kind of things that the wingnuts on the right say about the 4 justices who ruled Trump couldn't be on the ballot, right? They're looking for something like that. They don't find it. I mean, I think they played the most strongly worded voicemail they had, and it was, I'm very disappointed in the words on the screen. That's it, right? With those horrifying, all caps disappointed in some of those emails, I'm sure, which is frightening. These cowards went to ground. I mean, did you hear in the story where these guys are like, shut it all down, folks. We're going to the mattresses. Everybody hunker down in your homes. Arm yourselves with, well, we don't believe in guns. Arm yourselves with biodegradable plastic knives if there are such things. I mean, this is a broken institution. And if CU does nothing about it other than just wheel out DeStefano to say, personally, I think it's anti-Semitic, we're missing something here. I don't ever again want to hear about CU needing more taxpayer funding or being underfunded. You know who we should get on the phone? You know who we need? We need a guy like Frank McNulty. He is a CU regent. And if he was listening right now, and I'm pretty sure he's not, but if he was, he probably just uttered the F word, because he's like, no, don't you do it. Don't you get me. It's too late, Frank. I'm texting you right now. We're going to do it during a break. Let's do this. We'll cut away for a break. Let the phones fill up with 303-696-1971. I'll take a look at your emails as well. What should be done here? Can you believe this? And then I'll read you some more from this just laugh out loud / cry posting by these goofs out there at the ethnic studies department at CU. If you have a degree in ethnic studies, you can change your name. And I know why you would, because it's embarrassing to have such a degree. But could you call up and explain to us the value of the ethnic studies degree and what it does for the pursuit of human knowledge? 303-696-1971. George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Just some really good news before we get back to our conversation. And we've got Mike on the line, too, and a line open at 303-696-1971. Some text coming in as well. Hey, everybody, RTD is lowering their fares for 2024. So all of you out there have the potential to save so much money now with the RTD that you never used to begin with. The 15 people that ride on it, congratulations. Actually, I know a buddy of mine, Corey from the show. He's an RTD guy, but the bus dude. The only other time I've ever taken it is just to go to sporting events. That's it. And the ride back is always about half full with drunks. And if you've ever ridden on it, you know what I'm talking about. Hey, let's go to Mike. You're on 710 KNUS. Mike, what do you think about all this?
Well, I tuned in a little late. From what I gathered there, you were reading off of CU website. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes and no. The website has since been changed, and they took down their statement, I presume, at the strong urging of the administration. But 9 News has figured out a way to get the entire text of the website, and I've been reading that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I sort of silently snickered when you said you read this line, something about Palestine is a feminist issue.
That's what it says.
Seriously?
It's a feminist issue.
Seriously? But I thought there were no genders. You like that? You like that, George?
Brilliant.
You like that, George?
Brilliant. You can't have a feminist. You're right. This is.
Come on, man.
This is genderist. This is
genderless. Genderless.
This another reason to get rid of the ethnic studies people. They recognize genders. Those bastards.
Yeah. Those dirty SOs.
Oh my, come on. Here's what it says right after it says Palestine's a feminist issue. The Department of Ethnic Studies stands in solidarity with the with the Palestinian people and their right to self-determination. Full stop. We loudly condemn the horrific ongoing settler violence of the Israeli state occupation and the brutal bombing of innocent Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip by its military, ongoing since October the 7th. No signs of abating, even as families are pushed south and over 5,000 Palestinians have been killed. We join the Palestinian call for liberation in every corner of Palestinian lands, adding our voice to the protests that have been taking place across the world, including in Colorado, in support of indigenous Palestinians' right to life, land, and return.
And liberty.
Liberty. Buddy, this is just laugh out loud. And it's sad though, too. Like, oh my God, you and I are paying for this, man.
Well, I'm not, but maybe you are. But anyways, no, I wanted to say I can be obnoxious, and thank you very much. I will. I'm going to adopt a new slogan: from the Gaza Strip to the sea.
Buddy, you could get canceled for that. Be careful, because the left
like
out there.
I'm not funding CU, so I'll see you later.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, have a Merry Christmas, man. Have a Merry Christmas.
George. Love you.
Thanks for calling in. That's a great point. You can't have feminist issues if there aren't females. And that's it. You just can't. I don't know what you call it if you don't have that. I have the shirt lit up for the moment, by the way, for those of you at the Tubes or the Rumble or whatnot. Here's some more of this. We support those that call what the state of Israel is doing amounts to war crimes, indiscriminate bombing of civilian populations, as opposed to targeting the unarmed and unsuspecting before you rape, kidnap, and murder them in front of their children. The indiscriminate bombing of civilian populations, collective punishments, withholding water, medical aid, food, fuel, and causing a preventable humanitarian catastrophe. We ask, is the end game of the Israeli state in its supposed, quote, right to defend itself? Listen to those words again. It's supposed right to defend itself, to ethnically cleanse Palestinian peoples with the support of the West. First off, that is just such utter, factually wrong garbage. Ethnically cleanse Palestinians? If you're interested in knowing why all those people have been relocated to the South, by the way, by their own hand, it's because Israel said, hey, folks, we'd like to minimize, if not eliminate, the injury and death to the innocent here. This is where we're going to be operating. Makes sense if you're not here when we do it, as we hunt down these evil Hamas terrorists. That doesn't seem to jive too much with the history of ethnic cleansing. It doesn't seem to match up with any single definition of genocide. But anyway, that's the ethnic department. There's more, by the way. There's more to this garbage right here. There's not a single word Hamas in here. They bemoan Islamophobia and anti-indigenous regimes. And I mean, this is, and by the way, 100%, I think these people ought to be able to say and spew out whatever I hate Jews in America garbage they want. Absolutely. But not on a taxpayer-funded website. We don't have to support this kind of garbage. And my guess is, my strong, sneaking, just taking a stab in the dark supposition is that had this been anything else, had this been can you imagine a department at CU that puts on its website, abortion is murder? We stand with the innocent babies who are ripped apart and whose lives are terminated early out of convenience by these. I mean, if they were to say stuff like that on a website, do you think that Chancellor DeStefano would sit back and go, well, I'm opposed to that kind of talk, but, they have the right to put it out there? Nope. Can you imagine some white supremacist professor? First off, can you imagine some white supremacist professor, but out there putting out on their website, let alone, God knows what these people are teaching students, by the way, putting out there on their website something that was like pro-slavery or something like that, or blamed the slaves for not standing up for that. You can imagine the kind of toxic, poisonous, hate-filled stuff that somebody could put up there that covers race. Can you imagine CU taking a hands-off? Well, they have the right to say it, George. We can't do anything about it. We can encourage them to change their tone and some of the words, but by golly, that's the First Amendment. I agree 100%. The First Amendment gives you the right to expose to the surrounding world how hate-filled and ignorant you are. In fact, I appreciate it when people do that. Thank you. Here's your sign. I appreciate that moment. But you and I don't have to pay for it. Why is this a matter of we can't do anything about it? They're taxpayer funded. That means taxpayers can not fund them. There's no obligation. God, I really want to get Frank on here. Frank McNulty, who's our CU regent, I think from the 4th CD. I really want to hear from someone at CU defending the existence of the Ethnic Studies Department. Has anyone ever sat in on one of their classes? I mean, if you're a white kid that goes to those classes, are you going there because you hate yourself? And this just helps you feel like, I mean, is this like self-whipping, right? Is this like your way of going in and washing away all the sins of privilege that you've had because you had the misfortune of being born white? Why in the world does this department exist? How do they further the exploration for knowledge in mankind? I don't know. Here's a text from our buddy Joan. I'm on board for the CSU extension, and the director is all DEI. They wanted to post my info on their website. They asked for my pronouns and gender. They did not get it. Here's our good friend Alexa. Let's see. Testicular injuries in women's sports. They've spiked, apparently, according to this graph, since 2020. And then a little pictogram. First wave feminism, we want to be equal to men. Second wave feminism, we don't need men. Third wave feminism, we are men. Fourth wave feminism, we are women. And it's a picture of the dude, the swimmer from, I think, Penn, of all places. Oh my gosh, here's another text. George, this CU debacle in Ethnic Studies Department is another example of how cultural Marxism has taken over our institutions of higher education. Israel is the oppressor, and Palestine, Hamas are the victims and the oppressed. Most of these universities are infiltrated by Marxist professors. That's our friend Gino. You know what? I would agree that there is something ideological about this. Is it Marxist? I think it could be. Certainly for ethnic studies and there could be some Marxism stuff in there, but I don't want that to be my default. I don't want my default to be, you say some crazy left-wing stuff, it must be Marxist. These guys might actually fit that bill. But certainly, I wonder if they've ever said a single pro-United States thing in any of their classes or writings. Like, we ended slavery. Like Abraham Lincoln, a white guy, pushed for the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery. Like, even that, just acknowledging that, or that we've done more to advance freedom here and across the planet Earth than any country ever times a billion. Like any of that stuff. I wonder if that happens. Here's another text. Good morning, Colonel. In terms of what ethnic studies grads, quote unquote, do, they 1, make frappuccinos. 2, pour coffee. 3, ensure that the background music volume in the coffee shop is just right for them, but too loud for the customers. Hey, it's very funny and probably true, but it gets me to this other point too. As I was reading this article, do you want to forgive the debt for the people that sign up for this garbage? If you're signing up to go get a degree in ethnic studies, you should have to find a way to fund that all by yourself. I don't think it brings any value to the world. It certainly isn't a job. I've never heard on any broadcast, I've never read in the Wall Street Journal, Barron's, Forbes, none of that. I've never heard we have a lack of ethnic studies graduates out there and it's impacting the economy. If only we had more people that stood up for the indigenous populations of Palestine and against the Jews in Israel, we could get a lot more done here in America. Or, you know what? Infrastructure in Denver is challenging. We need more engineers and ethnic studies grads to help us. Nope. Yeah, I just have never, ever heard that. 303-696-1971. Here's a text. I'm just praying it's a woman. If it's not, it's okay. It says I love you. And so I'm just hopeful that is, and in no way am I saying there's anything wrong. If it's a guy, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Okay. I'm just saying I'd prefer anyway. 303-696-1971. Let's cut away for a break. We'll continue to ping our buddy Frank. And then someone had a great idea. Joan did, ask Heidi. Maybe we'll ask Heidi to come on and she can explain this. George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here. Final segment of the 6 o'clock hour. I'll be with you, though, for 3 more after that. I just want to have these fun/sad conversations with you. There's more. There's stuff with Claudine Gay we'll get into in the 7 o'clock, too. But I just want to continue to have this conversation. Frank, you're on 710. What do you think about all this, man?
Well, first, George, Merry Christmas, and
Merry Christmas.
I love you, and
Me too, man.
welcome to MAGA. MAGA's been my party since 1982.
This is insane, man.
And as somebody who has donated $150,000 to CU, this is disgusting. But the problem really is so simple. But progressives and liberals just don't get it because they don't care about solving problems. All they care about is being in power. Go back to teaching American history, Colorado history, and even maybe I'm in Jeffco, so Jeffco history. Teach history, and you don't have to have all the mumbo jumbo. Just teach what happened and let people make their own decisions.
Frank, I'd say this. I'm not defending them. I just know what they'd say, and you do too. And that is, they'd say, we are teaching history. The history
they
that
call me a
white
racist.
Supremacist, the white supremacist colonizing non-history. Like, we teach the stuff that they won't teach you in these white male-dominated schools.
Oh, yeah, sure. I think that argument was pretty good for the first 10 years of when I was a MAGA member. But it's lost some legs, I think. But, by the way, did you know that the story about 3-4 weeks ago about how the Biden administration Department of Education,
Frank, they're going to cut us off in 15 seconds, man. They're going to cut
they
you and
proposed
me off.
They proposed a university program funded by my tax dollars to retrain all these idiots who didn't learn anything.
I'd almost rather retrain them than forget. Frank, Merry Christmas, man. Happy New Year. We'll talk with you next week. But hey, listen, stick around. We'll be back. 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Great 6 o'clock hour. We're going to keep it going in the 7. I've got some callers on the line. I know we have a line open at 303-696-1971. It started as a conversation about the Ethnic Studies Department up at CU putting out their anti-Semitic rant on a website where they call out the Israelis for everything except having babies whose heads were so easy to cut off by the Hamas terrorists. I mean, I didn't even read the whole thing, but some of the key lines, and Mike hit upon this, was Palestine is a feminist issue. And of course, the brilliant observation that can't be true because that acknowledges the existence of genders. I just thought that was, you guys are so smart. It was so insightful. But this thing just continues to horrify because you and I are paying for it. Now, I'm not suggesting that every tax dollar can only be spent on an education that advances ideas with which I agree. I am not suggesting that at all. This is just beyond the pale. We support those that call what the state of Israel is doing amounts to war crimes. I mean, come on, man. I mean, what's going on here that we're subsidizing it? I don't think the government should ever come in and end it or make a law to stop it. But do we have to subsidize it? Is that what the First Amendment is about? You don't just have a right to say something. You have a right to receive taxpayer support for it. I mean, part of your First Amendment right is to have a newspaper. But that doesn't mean you have a right to a newspaper. You can start a newspaper. You can start an online news source, but you don't have a right to have the government give you one. I mean, the Second Amendment, you have the right to bear arms. You don't have a right to have the government give you guns. I don't get what's going on here. 303-696-1971. Joan, you're on 710 KNUS. Joan, what do you think?
Well, I think this is terribly pervasive, and I have run up against it several times being on the CSU Board of Extension in Jefferson County. And
hold on, you're seeing this in Jeffco at like the high school level or something?
No, in the county level itself. So
okay.
On October 14th, I wrote one of the commissioners. I can tell you this: you need to be aware of how unpopular DEI is getting in light of the Israel situation. So here's my tip of the day. You know I give you tips of the days all the time.
Multiple.
Holding a One Community Summit, which is basically a DEI education program, when there is a $1.7 million financial loss for the county, is a bad idea.
Now, I get that there are folks out there who are raising a ruckus and showing up at these things and all that, and that's an indication of something. But are you seeing something that is out there that is at least getting the attention of the Dems that are in charge of government in my beloved home county of Jeffco, that's going to get them to change their mind? Or is this just performance art? Like they let people stand up and gripe and then they go back to business as usual?
Well, I'm beginning to think that they are listening, because one of the county commissioners is not running for re-election again. The other county commissioner really listens hard when I stand up and talk about what things are going on. And they were so upset with me. I had a 4-year appointment, and they managed to manipulate it around and make it a 3-year appointment because they had to have every other year kind of thing. So they actually cut my appointment time down to 3 years instead of 4 because I'm that annoying.
You think that was a DEI issue?
Well, I can tell you this. They had 20 spots for a master program at the CSU Extension, a master gardener program, right? Yeah. And they have somebody who's kind of woke and stuff in charge of it, and they had 50 applicants, but there were not enough diversity, so they had to go outside the county to get the diversity that they needed for the master gardener's class. Now, I've not been able to find out exactly who's in the master garden class and exactly what the diversity is.
I didn't know that gardening was a race-based thing. I mean, is the way you handle a cucumber or something like that, or the way you grow, is there a racist way to do that? Is there like, we need to have multicultural corn or something, or do we call it maize? Was that the old commercial?
I don't know. What I do know is this: they did ask me for my gender and my pronouns, and I've never given it to them because, if you can't figure out my gender, there is something really wrong.
There is, Joan, and this issue is out there for everybody, and I have to say, I'm conflicted, and I want to be 100% like, this is ridiculous, but I've known kids who have come out of the neighborhood, friends of my kids, who for whatever reason, whether I agree or disagree with it, are a them or a they or whatever. And I find myself struggling, like, listen, I don't buy into that stuff, but out of just an idea of respect for whatever it is that they're doing right now, do I just say it for purposes of that? For me, I would never do that. And I was in a setting recently, where was I? In a children's hospital for something, and sitting in this room, and they wanted people to go around and introduce themselves and give their pronouns. And I could identify every Republican in the room because ain't a one of them did it. You know what I mean? They all just sat there like, I'm Jim, or I'm Susan, and blah, blah, blah. All the others were like he, her, or he, him, or whatever it is that goes together. I've never even given it any thought, but I worry that this thing is, and I don't know if this is an ethnic studies thing, Joan, this thing out of CU, which may touch upon the DEI stuff you're experiencing with the Master Gardener class, because there's a racist way to plant your rhubarb, and there's a very sensitive way to plant your rhubarb. I don't know what either of those are, but let me read to you another paragraph from this absolutely mind-blowing posting on a website from the ethnic studies folks up at CU. This is another paragraph. Just the word choice. As departments whose work is informed, when you hear someone say, I'm informed by, already, it's a lefty thing. As departments whose work is informed by intersectional, anti-racist, and decolonial feminist, no comma between decolonial and feminist. That's apparently a kind of feminism, is decolonial feminism, and decolonial feminist, queer, and trans scholarship and activism, we join the scholars and activists of the Palestinian Feminist Collective in affirming Palestine as a feminist issue. That's a sentence, by the way. That's just one sentence of a paragraph that goes on and on to say things like, we amplify the legacy of Black, Indigenous, Arab, Muslim, and thankfully they throw in Jewish feminist and queer scholars and activists. I don't know what's going on.
That kind of sounds like a Kamala statement.
It does, except it doesn't repeat itself incessantly. You know what I mean? Like the significance of the passage of time, like she doesn't repeat it over and over.
Well, that's because I don't think she could have gotten through that sentence. But anyway, I think
on a prompter, maybe.
I think that we're at a point, and I can tell you that I did a major post on what happened with the Colorado Supreme Court. And I just shut it down, but I put it on Nextdoor. I got a 10.7 viewpoints. It was shared with 8 other things. I got 332 comments. I have never had this kind of response to something that I've posted. And it was very interesting to see exactly how people view what happened with the Colorado Supreme Court. It's very, very much, it needed to happen, and he was an insurrectionist, and I don't understand. I just don't understand. And then there were other people who were like, he didn't have his day in court, he didn't get this, he didn't get that. And it's just one of those things where I shut it down at 1:00 this morning, because I was just like, This is exhausting. This is exhausting that people are doing this kind of thing. And I honestly and sincerely think that we are not challenged enough in our daily lives. We are not challenged enough to go out and work and stuff, because the working people don't have time for this.
Joan, they don't. And I will tell you, Joan, that this is not an issue that is going to go away, but we're hopeful of having a conversation with someone who could be a decision maker, or at least influencer on this. Joan, Merry Christmas to you, by the way. And if I don't talk to you next week,
Merry Christmas. And I said Merry Christmas the other day in a coffee shop, and guess what? Everybody else said Merry Christmas back to me, and I was like, this is a little bit of progress. Not much.
It's true. I was in some setting with a guy where the hostess or something, I don't blame her for this because I'm sure the business, she's like, well, happy holidays. And the guy looks at her and goes, I don't do that. Merry Christmas. Hey, Joan, thanks for the call. Listen, we're going to go right to the VIP line because the aforementioned regent, the CU regent for the 4th Congressional District, a friend, a wicked smart guy, and a CU buff. His name is Frank McNulty. Frank, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, George, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, man. And thank you for making time in your morning, because I just hit you with this text. It's not like you and I had planned this out even an hour ago. Are you familiar with this story from 9 News about the ethnic studies / anti-Semitic department up there?
I am, yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk us through what in the hell is going on here? Because I'm not a CU regent guy, so I'm not sure how all the pieces fit together. But it seems to me that taxpayers are subsidizing an outfit that, one, incredibly cowardly, but two, anti-Semitic. What's going on?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not much that you can do about these things until something happens, right? And so for me, the important part is when the Ethnic Studies Department published on their website, on CU letterhead, a statement essentially praising Hamas and condemning Israel. The leadership went into action. I give a lot of credit to CU President Todd Solomon for quick action, and to Boulder Chancellor Phil DeStefano to have that statement removed. But the interesting is this: nobody takes credit for it. Nobody puts their name on it. If there was a vote in the Ethnic Studies Department, they aren't willing to share that and publish it. So there do need to be certain sideboards on how these things are published and how these different departments trade on the name and the reputation of the University of Colorado, because I can tell you, the leadership at CU is not down with coddling Hamas. We are not down with anti-Semitism on any of our campuses or within any of our organizations. And so to the extent that these things pop up from time to time, we need to deal with them, and we need to deal with them quickly.
Oh, we're talking with Frank McNulty, CU Regent. One, I'm thrilled to hear that about the president and the other leadership at CU taking this thing seriously. But a couple questions. One, are they entitled to anonymity in the things that they post? And if the answer is no, they're not, then do you have, or does the president's office have the ability to force them to either reveal who posted it or to simply dismiss them? I mean, I guess what I'm looking for, Frank, and the follow-up question was going to be, what's the purpose of the Ethnic Studies Department at this point?
Yeah, that is a great question, and one that is getting harder and harder to answer. As far as accountability, it is interesting to me that nobody there was willing to step up and say, this was my idea, or to step up and say, I want to sign my name to this statement, which essentially praises Hamas and condemns Israel. So there are no requirements, the way that things are set now, for anybody to have to put their name to that or to be accountable for it. And I do think that these are things that need to change. And, it's not just the Ethnic Studies Department. There are these issues pop up from time to time Certainly nothing as serious as this one. But if you're going to make a statement, you need to be able to stand behind it. You and I both know from the worlds in which we live and work, if we say something, our name is on it. If we write something, our name is on it. If you file a brief, your name is on it, and you are accountable for what that says. I mean, George, you even have a show named after you. That's how far you've come.
It's my stage name. But yes,
the requirement isn't there.
That's right. But the other thing that you and I know is when you're out there in public, whether it's as an elected leader or a civic leader, or you're in the media or whatever, you take all the positions in the world that you want to, but you know that there are folks out there who are going to hate on you for taking positions that they disagree with. And that's just part and parcel of this thing. And when I look, I don't know if you watched the story, man, but when you look at what 9 News did, they dug deep on these guys and they did a core request for their emails and their voicemails that were left in response to this. And like the strongest worded thing they could find was a voicemail where a guy kind of sheepishly says, "I'm very disappointed in the words that you chose." And others that are like, "I wish you had included some other academic stuff," or whatever. Based just on that, these people went to ground. They shut down the department, turned the lights off, sent emails to students and faculty alike. Everybody stay at home. We're hunkering down. I think they went to the mattresses without ever using that term. But calling them snowflakes would give a bad name to snowflakes. I mean, and we're paying for it. You and I are paying for it.
Well, there's this thing that we call keyboard courage these days, where
that's a good one. Yeah,
people are willing to sit behind their laptop and type out these statements filled with vitriol and everything else, and publish it on the internet. And if that person is then confronted at a later time in person saying, "Why did you do that?" it is 90% of the time, it is a different story. Why did you publish? Why did you send that X about me? Why did you put this Facebook post up about me? It is 90% of the time they back off of it very quickly. And so none of that surprises me. But I will say this about the University of Colorado. It is unusual for a public institution, private institutions, now that we see what's going on at Harvard, Penn, and the rest, unusual for the institution to go to one of its departments and say, "You need to remove this item that you published from the public space. It is so offensive that you need to remove it from your public space." And I do give credit to the university leadership for having done that.
Is that enough? And I now want to know, what else are they teaching in ethnic studies? It had always been one of those, and I think it was around when you and I went there too, but you just kind of walked by the building or the offices and thought to yourself, whatever. I mean, one, in an era where we're talking about the president of the United States forgiving jillions of dollars in student loans, I think, my God, did you forgive the student loans for the people that took ethnic studies? And are we loaning people money to go do this? And if so, towards what end? Like, what jobs do they hold after this? I mean, what part of the American economy or experience is advanced by an anti-Semitic, presumably I hate America group inside a university? Like, have you ever sat through any of these classes or seen any of the, the syllabi or something like? I'm now intrigued. What else are taxpayers paying for to be taught under the CU banner? And I'm a CU guy times two, man. Like I'm a buff guy through and through like you. It pains me to see this.
Yeah, no, and it is painful. And no, I haven't sat through one of those classes. And thankfully, when I was doing my time at the University of Colorado Boulder, that wasn't a class requirement for me to take. But I think a whole host of degree programs and courses of study need to be reviewed under a similar lens. And that is, are we getting what we want out of this? Are we building young Americans who can think, who can properly assess a situation, who are willing to listen, And that's another point that is lost in so many of these courses of study is some of these kids aren't being taught to listen, to learn, to consider. And so, sure, that's happening in ethnic studies, but it's happening other places too. And that's the challenge of higher education. And I think it's a challenge that we need to be willing to address.
Well, once again, man, you've brilliantly sort of encapsulated if this thing is going to exist, what it should be there for. And it should be there to expand people's thinking and way of viewing different things. It looks like instead it is there to indoctrinate and to try to create a generation of people who think like they do. Let me just read you this sentence, man, out of their thing, off of the website that they changed. As departments whose work is informed by intersectional, anti-racist, and decolonial feminist, queer, and trans scholarship and activism, we join the scholars and activists of the Palestinian Feminist Collective in affirming Palestine as a feminist issue. Buddy, we paid for that. I mean, just what is going on?
Sure, I know. I understand, and to me that sounds a lot like Kamala Harris might have wrote it, given the word
Holy
ballot.
smokes! Joan said the same thing, and I pushed back and said it can't be her because it wasn't repeated 3 or 4 times without explanation.
She didn't say the same thing with the words in a slightly different order 10 times over.
And emphasis, like Palestine is a feminist issue. Palestine is a feminist issue. You know, like, can I ask you?
So we know that.
Is there the significance of the passage of time? What's the process, if there is one, to end a department? I mean, is there a way to is there a mechanism to not have an ethnic studies department, or to at least clean house and bring in people who are interested in ethnic studies, not indoctrination? Is there a way to do that, or are we just stuck?
Yeah, no, there is, but it sits at the campus. And right now Phil has announced his resignation, and we're in the process of the president is in the process of conducting a search to find the next chancellor at CU Boulder. And obviously there's a big it's a big job. Phil has done a good job for the last 15 years. He spent the last 50 years on that campus, but he decided it's time to retire, and so that means we get new blood up there and new leadership, and a lot of these things need to be a fresh look at these things and see where they go.
Frank, could a CU regent be chancellor?
I think that there would be a lot of people who would think that was a bad idea.
Oh, I guess that probably holds true for a former DA, because I'd love to be a CU guy too. The current, can you imagine the fun? I would be, in some ways, the white Coach Prime of the CU administration. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would bring people I would recruit like hell to bring normal human beings back into higher education. The CU Regent Board right now, how is it split, R's and D's?
5 Democrats, 4 Republicans.
Oh, is there any chance? Is there any chance for that to change in 2024?
Yeah. The statewide seat is up. So there are eight seats that are assigned to Colorado's 8 congressional districts, and then that 9th seat is the statewide seat, and that's the one that will be up in November of 2024. So it is currently held by a Democrat, Leslie Smith. She decided not to run for re-election, to run for the state house from Boulder. So the seat is open, and that is a very real opportunity for the GOP.
Oh, well, we're gonna have to have you back on to talk about how we do that. Frank McNulty, thanks for making time on no notice to hop on air and have a conversation with us about this. Have a Merry Christmas, brother. I'll see you in the new year.
Merry Christmas, George, and blessings to your family and your audience out there. Take care.
Same. Hey, that is the awesome CU Regent, Frank McNulty. Folks had asked, hey, what about Heidi too? I reached out to Heidi. She apparently has a couple sick kids at home and recommended Frank as well. Of course, I would have gone to Frank and Heidi just because they're both the bomb in the CU Regent department. Hey, listen, we're going to cut away for a break. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Let's have a conversation about this. Do we need to end the ethnic studies program, or is this just George? That's anti-First Amendment. Give us a call. Brauchler 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. My thanks to Frank McNulty, CU Regent extraordinaire. Also, Heidi, hope the kids feel better. There's some texts that have come in here. Thanks for bringing on Frank M. from CU Bohr. If CU leadership is different than MIT, Harvard, etc., it's good to hear it. I agree. I mean, I appreciate the steps they've taken. I just think they're wholly insufficient. I think the question has to be asked, what possible benefit to the exploration of knowledge can there be with taxpayer subsidized ethnic studies departments that can't get over how gutless these people are? I mean, if you think that I'm disappointed and you should take down those words is enough to make you turn the lights off and run away to your home, damn, how do you go out in public ever? I mean, we have created a generation of the intellectually meek. But oh my gosh, I just love that Frank is talking there about that there is a possibility, not that he's going to pursue it, but there's a possibility to end an ethnic studies department, but it has to start with the campus. Maybe that's our focus. Maybe our focus is to try to do that. 303-696-1971. Gee, I don't know if we have callers on, but I wanted to read some text here. It says, see, you found that text not to be Jew hate. Yes, that's right. CU is far left trash, George. You should be begging decent alumni to cut off money to that cesspool. It's our friend Fran. That is probably the only attention getter that these folks would understand, right? Is if the money started to dry up from outside sources. Big federal funder, too. They get funding from the feds like nobody's business. But that's not for this garbage. That's for things like science and aerospace and physics and stuff like that, like legitimate pursuits of knowledge. Whatever this is, it feels like it should be required to stand on its own and be funded on its own. Then they can make all sorts of decisions that they want. But when they take our money, I don't know. This is from Eric, the woke woman of UPenn. President's name is Liz McGill. Yep, that's right. You are correct, Eric. This is the same department that employed Ward Churchill. Is it? Was it ethnic studies? That's you know who we need to get on this? Daniel J. Kaplis. I mean, there's a guy that helped take down Ward Churchill. I mean, almost single-handedly. We should put him on this. The idea that these snowflakes, and again, I feel like I'm disparaging snowflakes. What's weaker than a snowflake? These just gutless people, they won't even put their name on it because, if they did that, somebody would end up sending them direct emails that say horrific things like in all caps, this isn't nice. I am disappointed. You should take this down. Horrific things, just horrific. Here's your unconscious bias needs to be corrected, George. Better go sit in on a class. Actually, it's conscious. It's a conscious bias that I have against these lefties. Good Lord. Here's another one. I have a question, sir. What are the chances that you get deployed if the world keeps going in the direction we are headed? That's a big, broad question. I'm happy to answer it. Anybody in uniform right now, reserve, guard, even some folks on IRR, the independent ready reserve or individual ready reserve, we all stand some chance of getting mobilized. I think for me, it's so situational because when you reach the rank that I'm at, I have the same equivalent rank as a brigade commander. That's a commander that has multiple battalions underneath them. To deploy me into theater, it'd have to be for a pretty specific purpose, like staff judge advocate, which I'm not for the Guard. I was the state judge advocate, but then they went ahead and punched me in the face and made me the military judge and sent me to judge school. So yeah, I could deploy as a military judge. They could repurpose me in some other legal liaison or advocate or advisor position, but it'd be tough. I'd want to go, by the way, but it's just harder when you climb up the ladder and you get to a certain point. It just becomes tougher. I don't have a unit that I'm in charge of that could be individually mobilized and deployed. When you're a JAG, you're kind of off on the side a little bit, unless you're a captain or a major and you're embedded with the brigade. then you go. So when I went to Iraq way back when, that was as a single person replacement. I swapped out for the chief of military justice in northern Iraq. That's how I didn't go with a unit. It was a onesie. I traveled all by myself to get into country, and then they picked me up and drove me through the sand, and we got there. But so it's a good question, fair question. I just don't think it's huge, and I hope it never gets to the point where we need to be sending anybody. Here's another picture. Here's another text. I love Frank McNulty. Miss him as the Colorado speaker. Of course you do, because that would mean we had the majority control of a house in the legislature instead of this. We're a super minority in the House. By definition, we're nearly a super minority in the Senate. I mean, you want to know why the legislature is so broken in the things that it pursues. There you go. There's no balance at all. And by the way, I don't think we'd be a better state if the shoe was on the other foot. I'd like to have the majority in the House and the Senate. My God, wouldn't it be cool if we had another governor like Governor Owens in there? But I don't want us to have a super majority, because then we're going to do crazy stuff too. I'd like to have a little more balance. Here's people. This is Alexa. People need to take action with their money. I bet CU in the past gets more money from the R's than the D's. Those with degrees in ethnic studies probably are not making a ton of money. If conservatives stop giving donations to CU, I bet they'll pay attention. What they need to say is, I will give money to CU when you end the ethnic studies program, or when you clean house. I mean, maybe there's some legitimate things that go on in ethnic studies. I don't know. Never took anything out of there. Maybe there is, but not with these clowns. They need to find the person in charge, the webmaster, and figure out a way to root that person out and get rid of them. 303-696-1971. God, Mark keeps punching me over this camera. Buddy, I think people want to see the sweatshirt. That's what I'm going to say. I don't think they want to necessarily see my head on this. Let's take a look here. We're at a great place for me to tell you. You know what? I'd already started talking about him. Let me just tell you about Dan Caplis. I mentioned him as an advocate for the truth and a certain degree of intellectual integrity when it comes to education. That's what was on display when a guy who graduated from CU twice, just like me, he's a two-time CU buff, undergrad as an Evans Scholar, and from the best law school in the state of Colorado. And I'm not dinging my current employer, DU. They're the second best law school in the state of Colorado. I love them. But let's be clear. CU has a special place in his heart and in my heart. And when it comes to making sure that he fights for the right cause, there's no end to the effort he'll put into it. So he dedicated how many countless hours to exposing Ward Churchill and ultimately getting him off the campus and off the taxpayer dole. That kind of passion, that isn't just manufactured. That just exists in this guy. And it's been that way forever. So imagine the lengths he'll go to for you. If you have that righteous case, you have been harmed by somebody's negligence, recklessness, maybe even their intentional conduct. He and Babar Wahid, his partner, there's just no ends to the lengths that they'll go to, all ethically, of course. But there's no lengths to the end they'll go to fight for the right outcome. You've seen it displayed at the public level with the Ward Churchill thing. I kind of hope he takes on this ethnic studies thing too. But in terms of your case, he buys into your case. I'm telling you, it's game over for the other side. Give them a call to find out how you get to be on that team. 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or you can check him out, and Bobber too, and the rest of the staff, at dancaplislaw.com. That's Dan Caplis, Caplis law.com. Listen, going to cut away for a break. We're going to get to some more of the texts that are here. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, and we'll talk a little bit more higher education. This time, Havard. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. That is cup 4 this morning right here on the George Show 710 KNUS. Having a fun morning talking about the train wreck that is the Ethnic Studies program up there at CU. I'm looking for the solid, positive takeaway from their ongoing existence as a taxpayer-funded portion of my beloved CU. Still haven't found any takers on that. You can at 303-696-1971. Here's some text. Lefty Tony from Denver. You're so right. We need less of that lib BS and more good old-fashioned real Americans at CU like that paragon of morality, Johnny. Well, okay. I'm not saying that anybody has cornered the market on all the right things with the right people, but nonetheless, there has to be some explanation for why something exists. And for the conservative something seat that they had, whether or not they should have put Eastman in it or not, you can debate that. But the existence of that was a response to how 99% of the rest of the non-science university is completely left of center. So we need balance. But the ethnic studies thing, think about all the money you could save. You repurpose the building. You have students no longer getting degrees that are going to have loans either forgiven by Uncle Sam, that means us, or they're not going to have to live in their parents' basements anymore. I mean, they can learn a marketable skill like bricklaying or carpentry or something actually productive for society. I think there's a lot of merit to it, but what do I know? Getting a bunch of great memes from Alexa. Here's another text from perhaps someday your callers will learn how to pronounce Kamala's name correctly. So much for CU education. I am certain that CU does not teach how to pronounce anybody's name correctly, but certainly not the vice president. I don't understand the point. People get names wrong. I don't think that's an indication of a lack of education. I just think it's not a name. It's not like John or Joan or Susan or anything like that. It's like Barack Obama. It took a while for people to realize that the guy who'd called himself Barry his entire life had to go to Barack for politics. That took a little bit of change. Here's another text. The chair or head of this ethnic studies department should be capable of being identified. Agreed. They're not a private citizen going on to X and saying hateful things to me or anyone else with their hidden little name on there. These are people paid for by you and I. We get to know who they are at a public institution when they use a public website to post these ridiculous words publicly. My takeaway from all this, number one, is obviously going to be the truth that I wasn't aware of, that Palestine is a feminist issue. Didn't know it. And now I do. I feel smarter because of that. Palestine is a feminist issue. Who knew? But can we talk about something else that's related to this? I want to get to this Claudine Gay thing out of Harvard, but not yet, because there's something else going on here. And that something else is our own state legislators, also taxpayer funded. There's an article in the Denver Post called Colorado Elected Leaders, Community Groups Push for Ceasefire as the Gaza Death Toll Grows. Let me say this. In no way am I cheering on, supportive, or apathetic about innocent Palestinians, and I'm certain there are some. Their death, especially kids and the helpless and all that, I get all that stuff. But that cannot be the thing that keeps Israel from, apparently, according to the ethnic studies people, their purported right to self-defense. It can't keep them from defending themselves against Hamas. And frankly, what I don't get about the Palestinians and these people like Representative Iman Jodeh, if I'm saying that correctly, if I'm not, probably a product of my CU education texter, what I don't get is why they don't call out Hamas, why they don't rid themselves of Hamas. You don't need Israel to do it. You can do it. Point them out to the IDF. They are in here. They're in this school. They are under this hospital. I mean, point them out. Help get rid of them. Why not? So they've got this big thing on the steps, and this is what she says. This is what Representative Joda, if I'm saying it incorrectly, forgive me. We must demand a ceasefire. We cannot allow the word ceasefire to become taboo. We cannot allow the word ceasefire to be the word that they fear the most. If we do, the next word that will be taboo is peace. What lefty garbage. Peace without security, peace without freedom is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Who cares about peace if on any given day a group of people can come in, rape people, kidnap them, cut the heads off of babies? So what? What I need to hear from her, what we need to, and I'm so tired of this in any other context, because everything's contextual, is for them to decry Hamas. If they joined the call to end Hamas right now, wouldn't this go more smoothly? Wouldn't this end more quickly? End Hamas. Hamas is an evil terrorist organization. There is no place for them on a civilized planet Earth. Goodbye. Good riddance. Happy to take your calls on this. We'll talk about Claudine Gay when we come back. You stick around. It's George Brauchler, 710. We are halfway through the Friday show before the big, long Christmas weekend. It looks like it's going to be a white Christmas. And according to some stuff I read in the paper, that only happens about 38% of the time. Here in Colorado, we're fortunate that it's going to be this year. I just love the white Christmas stuff. I don't know how folks do it in California or Hawaii or elsewhere, but a Christmas without snow is just some other day that a guy slips into your house in Denver, and in this case, leaves stuff instead of stealing it. What we've been talking about, and my thanks to Frank McNulty, CU Region, in the last hour for keeping this conversation going, is about the dumpster fire that is higher education. And the one specific example that I gave was this thing going on with the ethnic studies program up there at CU. But wait, there's more. There is another story that we're covering. It relates to the Palestine-Israel thing that I started talking about, and that is this growing, and I believe this is born of anti-Semitism, but this growing focus by certain legislative leaders and other leaders out there to put pressure on Joe Biden and Anthony Blinken and the others to encourage a ceasefire. And I presume that means there'd have to be some kind of a negotiated peace. And that here's a comment from, oh gosh, who is this person? Here's event include Representative Lorena Garcia of Adams County, former state representative Jonathan Singer of Longmont, and representatives from, get this, again, remember, Palestine's a feminist issue, representatives from Elephant Circle, a reproductive rights group. Why does their opinion of what's going on in Palestine and Israel matter? Nonetheless, here's what Singer says. We can no longer turn a blind eye to the horrific devastation of thousands of innocent children and civilians. As a person of Jewish faith, I know that what it means to be called the nation of Israel, our home, after millennia of diaspora and displacement. The Palestinian people have also experienced displacement. They deserve a sovereign state of their own to call home. This is all about trying to get that second state that they've rejected over and over again. The only way to broker that peace, he said, is to start with a ceasefire and the return of hostages. That, to me, cannot answer the question. Ask yourselves, can Hamas be negotiated with? Undeniably, they launched this surprise attack on the unarmed, on the unsuspecting. In the process of it, they murdered parents deliberately in front of their children, murdered children in front of the parents. They beheaded babies. They raped women. They kidnapped over, 200 people and drugged them back into Gaza. Please tell me what the negotiation could be with monsters like that. You agree not to behead any more babies, and we can take you at your word because you're a rapist and a kidnapper and a baby killer. I'm sorry. There's no... What negotiation do you think could have ever existed with the Nazis? You stop putting Jews in ovens, and then we can... There was never a thought of that, right? The only answer has to be an end to Hamas. And the sooner these people here in America that are trying to decry whatever Israel's doing to end Hamas, the sooner they focus on an end to Hamas, the sooner we support Israel in getting rid of Hamas, then I'm all on board. Let's have a conversation about a second state. Let's have a conversation about a ceasefire. Let's have a conversation about what peace moving forward can look like. But it's like having cancer in your body and like, I'll negotiate with the cancer. You don't negotiate with the cancer. You get rid of the cancer. Hamas is a cancer in humanity. Got to be ended. This nonsense by Joda and the others in the legislature and the Elephant Circle Reproductive Rights Group, who apparently is also pro-Palestinian and Hamas. Ignore it. It's irrelevant until Hamas is gone, until they stand up and say, end Hamas now. Let's end Hamas so the rest of Palestine can be addressed. I don't care what they have to say. And it's not that I'm insensitive to the loss of innocent life, but I really don't care what they have to say. That cannot be the direction that we're going. Meanwhile, There is one of the three gong show presidents of those elite institutions that testified before Elise Stefanik a few weeks ago that resulted in the removal of McGill, what's her name, out at UPenn. One of them is the president of Harvard. Her name is Claudine Gay. She has a PhD. She got that based off of a dissertation. She's the first Black president, and a woman, by the way, of Harvard. That's kind of a big deal. And what we're discovering now is there are a set of standards for everybody else academically, and there are a set of standards for the first Black president of Harvard, because here's what's going on. Repeated identifications of plagiarism of her PhD dissertation have been identified. Undeniable. And in fact, if you want to look at the same article I'm looking at, go to the Wall Street Journal. And it's called Harvard Stands Behind Its President, Claudine Gay, After New Plagiarism Allegations. Now, everybody on this show and listening knows what plagiarism is. You, without attribution, and that means without giving credit to, claim the work of others as your own. In academia, that's like the third rail, right? I mean, that's the end of your, you get an F in class for stuff like that. You don't get advanced in your academic career for things like that, unless you're the first Black president of Harvard. And tell me if you don't see some hypocrisy here. I could be way wrong. Maybe this is just going to be, well, George, you're a white guy. You don't get it. Plagiarism rules are racist. But go to this Wall Street Journal article. They've gone side by side between her dissertation and the actual authors who generated this language. And it is word for word the same. Sentences like non-experimental, in the sense that they are not directly observed for whole randomly assigned groups. That's not a word like I like Spot. Spot is red. See Spot jump. It's not like that, right? Word for word, she put that in her dissertation without attribution. Here's one where the actual authors wrote as an instrument for low-income housing development. That part's different. We construct a county-level measure that captures the incentives developers have built or rehabilitate affordable housing. So she put that in. I mean, that part is the actual authors. We construct a county-level measure. She changed it to I also construct a county-level measure that captures the financial incentives, word for word the same. And it happens over and over again. And brought to her attention and to Harvard's attention, do you know what the recourse is, what the response is? She's fired. No, she has to Nope. She's given an opportunity to amend her dissertation. That's right. Having been called out for plagiarism. And again, this isn't an undergrad student in their freshman year who maybe has never gone through the vigorous checking of citations in the academic world and all that stuff. And even then they would crush that person harder than they've crushed her. This is the head of perhaps the most elite higher educational institution on the planet Earth. And it's her PhD dissertation. It's why they call her Dr. Gray. It's why we call Dr. Jill, but Dr. Jill. It's a PhD. And it looks like she plagiarized repeatedly the work of others. And their response is, let's let her go back and fix it. Do you know what this is like? This is like the shoplifter who gets caught stepping outside the store with a video game smuggled in their pants. And then they go, well, I'm willing to pay for it. I mean, I'm willing to pay for it now. Please don't call the police. And by the way, that was an analogy that references back to a time when stores cared about shoplifters. Nonetheless, think of any other crime. Guy gets pulled over driving drunk and says, hang on, give me a chance. I'll go home, sober up, and redrive the route again. Can you imagine this being extended to any? We heard someone, kind of crap talking Johnny. Can you imagine if John Eastman at CU, not as the president, not as the chancellor, but as some dude who was occupying that conservative seat that got carved out for him. Can you imagine if he'd engaged in plagiarism like this? Do you think that university would have said, John, you need to go back and amend the dissertation? Oh my God, he'd have been pilloried. His academic career would be over. And I'm not defending anything else John Eastman's ever done. I'm saying you can see the hypocrisy. My God, if Claudine Gay were not the first black president of Harvard, if she were a white dude, do you believe they'd do the same thing? 303-696-1971. This is just craziness. Here's some more texts that have come in. America faces its own barbarian problem. Indians. What? I don't even know what that means. Joe Biden got caught doing plagiarism and it lost him his first run for president. But when they wanted Trump out, Dems overlooked it. Oh, yeah, you mean for the plagiarism. And that's true. If you'll recall back in 1988, let's call it 1988, back when Dukakis ran and got smoked by Bush #1. Joe Biden had run for president, and he had been outright copying word for word the speeches and comments of a guy named Neil Kinnock. Neil Kinnock was the labor leader in the UK, things that he had said in and outside of Parliament. And that's when Joe Biden's campaign ended. Now, we've forgiven him since, obviously, for a whole host of things like that and the other nonsense that he's done. But that's a great reference because our president of the United States probably finds a lot of sympathy for Dr. Claudine Gay because he did the exact same thing. And I'm sure it wasn't his fault either. But you know what? He's a white guy. He should have known better. I think that's probably what you'd hear them say. Here's another can't listen anymore signing off. Have a beautiful, calm Christmas. Yep. Thank you. Thanks for the lead. It's not on Amazon. Searching. Oh, somebody had texted in and said, I love that sweatshirt. Now, Mark hates it when I do this, but if you're on the Rumbles or the YouTube, I'm going sweatshirt right now. I'm going to put it down on my burgeoning torso here. And this is what happens. It's the Peanuts characters dancing around a Christmas tree with Snoopy. And there you go. If you're on the YouTube or the Rumbles, what you can see right now is, yep, it lights up. It lights up, flashing lights, red, green, blue, bleen as well, yellow. It is the Roy G. Biv shirt right there. That's what we've got. And I got it at Sam's Club maybe a year or two ago. I can't remember, but it was something like that. Here's another text. My kids would have been kicked out of their high school for plagiarism. Do we expel people for plagiarism anymore? We don't even expel them for bringing weapons to school anymore, do we? I know what we don't expel them for. That's right. If they go off campus and try to murder someone, as long as they're given some type of makeable bond, they can come back to school and sit in class next to you. But if they plagiarize, you are no longer safe to be in school. Ward Churchill from CU plagiarized, was fired. He then blamed racism because plagiarism is racism. It is a position of privilege to be able to just cite work and refer to the actual people who came up with it. It's just racist to expect others to do that. Hey, listen, let's do this. We're coming up on a break. Let me let you know about Gay Rebel and the Empower Home team. You're not going to buy or sell a house likely before Christmas. If you do, I want to know about it, or even next week. But when you look at 2024, this is going to likely be your bestest time in the last couple years, at least the last 18 months, to get something done in terms of getting out of the house you no longer need one and into the one that you do. Call Gay Ribble at the Empower Home Team at 833-301-SOLD. And the reason you do that is they're number one. They sell more than everybody else. They sell for a higher price than everybody else, and they sell more quickly than everybody else. That's not me saying it. That's the data that says it. You can find out why by checking them out at sellwithcertaintycolorado.com, sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. But I'd give them a call. Talk to the nice people out there and use just this number, 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. Hey, stick around. We're going to cut away for a break. We'll come back. We'll get any callers on the line, your texts. Festivus right here on 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, talking about Dr. Claudine Gay. She's the, I guess, embattled president of Harvard. She was one of the three from the private institutions and got to be distinguished from CU. CU's publicly funded, so the First Amendment does apply to them, doesn't apply to these private institutions. She was one of the ones that had come out and said that advocating for the genocide of Jews in this academic setting that is Harvard is not necessarily a violation of their policies, harassment, anything like that, because it's all contextual. Like, you might sit down in a class at Harvard and have a sincere conversation about, should we kill all the Jews? Would that be a good thing to consider? When has it been tried and been successful? I mean, like, you're going to have this conversation about genocide of Jews and Israelis, and it not be harassment. Just so hard to imagine. Put in any other group there, and you know that they would lose their minds. And so, to add insult to injury to this, not only does Harvard keep her on, because they're so freaked out because she's the first Black president of Harvard, she engages in repeated plagiarism, and it gets called out for it. It's undeniable that it was plagiarism. It's undeniable that it fell short of any of the citation standards that freshmen and everyone else are held to. And yet this first Black president of Harvard and a PhD candidate, at the time she did this, she violated it. They said, you can just go back and amend it. Just go back and fix the citations in your plagiarized PhD dissertation, and everything will be okay. And I guess the end result of this now is everybody that has a kid in college, or if you're in high school, you should send them a link to the Wall Street Journal article on it and print it off and keep it with them, so that at whatever point in their academic careers they're accused of plagiarism, they can pull out the gay card. I guess as soon as I said that out loud, I regret that. But you know what I mean, the Claudine Gay card. And say, I'm sorry, my standard is the one set by the president of Harvard. I would like an opportunity to go back and provide attribution where I had failed to before. So get the article, keep it with you, give it to your kids, and let them know if you're ever accused of plagiarism, you just throw out the gay card, the Claudine Gay card, because apparently it's okay if you're the first Black president of CU. Here's another text. Have your boys ever wanted to follow your footsteps and talk to you about them joining the Army or any other armed forces? This is our friend Eric. Only Graham, who's standing within arm's reach of me right now. Oh my God, he's trying to put himself on camera here too. If you're on the YouTube or the Rumbles, I'm angling it. That's him right there with the nice. He's growing his hair out, by the way. I asked him to get a haircut like Dad's, and he has said no. So that's well, they're Merry. Yeah, no offense, just too ugly. Merry Christmas to you too, son. I don't know how big you like your lump of coal, but it's coming. Just so that you know, he's the only one. He wants to do the Navy. Not sure how to interpret that since I'm an Army guy, but at the end of the day, I think he'd go to any of the academies. But I think right now his heart is set on Annapolis, but that's just like Dad when he was growing up too. Here's another one. Click to the ethnic studies people in our community. It says, shows you people in the department, including the department chair. Ooh, goody. I want to take a look at that as well. Here's some more text. Good morning, fellas. Jacqueline from Nebraska. You send these chicken... You can figure out the next word, people, to me. I'll take care of them. These left-wing cowards, little tyrants. I'm sure you can't read what I said, but it just proves what kind of cowardly tyrants they are. Someone texted in Merry Christmas, Graham. Isn't that so nice? And you're grounded. Another text. Urkel from Family Matters is also accusing Harvard's president of plagiarizing his persona. Again, you guys are brilliant. You have to go pull down a picture of and demeanor of Dr. Claudine Gay, the first Black president of Harvard, because the Urkel thing, it nailed it, I think, even with the eyewear. But even Urkel didn't engage in plagiarism. Here's another one. Protesters chant free Palestine. Eliminate Hamas. Palestine will be free, not under the control of... Agreed. They should be chanting free Palestine from Hamas. I completely agree with you. Another text. So, George, can you address the Palestinian issue with Amanda at home? You know, we're at a very interesting place in that academic thing there. She's very close to graduating, getting her degree in international affairs and economics. And I think, honestly, I think she'd like to end up somewhere doing something abroad, like State Department stuff. I think she's going to try the Peace Corps, that kind of thing. I think that the conversation right now would not be well received. And I say that because she's in the midst of the learning part of this, the academic part of this, and has not been exposed to the life part of this. And I just think it's different. You can view atrocities as a single childless teenager / early 20 person one way. You could do that. When you become a father, spouse, you have a family, all of those things, your view of what happens to other people changes. And if it doesn't, there's something wrong with your heart, right? But it changes. And so, you know, you can be aghast as a teenager and a college student at the idea of beheading babies. You have babies, and all of a sudden beheading babies becomes maybe the single greatest act of evil you can conceive of, other than doing it to more than one. And you begin to think of yourself, no matter how much hatred you might hold in your heart for another person, you could never envision yourself taking a baby of any color, creed, ethnicity, ever, no matter what you think about the people coming over the border in the South and the risk they pose. You could never conceive of killing a child, let alone beheading them. And these people not only did it, they put it on video and they celebrated it over and over again. It just feels different when you've been a parent. It's just different. And I'm not saying that. So some of this is life experience stuff. Some of this will be, you know, maybe she'll go out and learn some other things. So yes, I think everybody in the house knows my position on this. They're all aghast at the idea that Dad is contemplating a trip to Israel at the end of January. But be it may, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what the Army says. If the Army says I can't go, I can't go. But otherwise, I want to go and show my support. And that's probably the bestest way that I can do that is following Rich Sokol's footsteps, or our buddy Neil Dobro from over there. Here's another text that's come in. Wow, the Navy, what's next? Going to be a defense attorney in JAG? No, he nodded yes, but he doesn't mean that. No, because as soon as he finishes his stint with the Navy, he's going to end up playing for some Major League Baseball team. We don't know which one yet, but that's probably what's going to happen. 303-696-1971 is our phone number. The texts just keep coming in, and I love it. But by the way, I love the conversation as well. Oh, there were some other things I was going to do. Since it's the Friday before Christmas and there's a lot of people that are sleeping in, not going to work, going shopping or whatever. There were a couple other stories out there that I wanted to bring to your attention. One is on January 1st. We can do this next week too. There's 8 new laws that go into effect. And we'll have the conversation next week. I just want to put this on your radar. Plastic bags, single-use plastic bags are going the way of the dodo. And they're just not going to be around anymore. What you do at restaurants and stuff, I have no idea anymore. Like, go try to pick up Chinese. Maybe they now have to put them in those little cardboard boxes or something. But folks, the plastic, because we're trying to save the planet here. We're trying to save the planet here in Colorado, and that gets borne on your back right there. There's a right to repair law. There's a ban on single-use plastic. But here's another thing, remote evictions, because we want to make it easier for people who aren't paying what they agreed to pay to the landlord, the ability to continue on in that property where the landlord is still paying what they owe to the bank, but the person who agreed to pay them rent is not. So we're going to do the remote evictions thing and hopefully increase the number of people not paying their fair share. Remember the term fair share? Not paying their fair share. Here's something else. What's that, G? Did you say something? Who is? Kimmy? Kimmy, you ain't got no alibi. Kimmy, you're on 710 KNUS. Kimmy, what do you think?
Oh, I heard an interview with one of the women who was plagiarized against. And even though Harvard is supporting the president, the woman who has been plagiarized against, she is pursuing this. Like, I don't know, legally.
Ooh.
Yes. So it's not over.
Interesting. Do you think for a moment, Kimmy, if it had been you would have gotten the same treatment from any institution that you've attended? Kimmy?
When I went to college, they would have pursued it, but not now.
Do you think the not now pursuing it is just an overall lax approach to plagiarism? Or do you think, and this is what I've postulated here, is the idea that because she's the very first Black president of Harvard, to have her unceremoniously disciplined by removing that position would look horrible to the lefties that keep that place afloat?
Yeah, but doesn't it look, I mean, personally, I think it looks bad for Harvard to not pursue it.
I do too. The amount of hypocrisy that they've engaged in. Because, Kimmy, I think if you were the president of Harvard, they would not treat you the same way.
No.
What should happen here? I mean, is it a no harm, no foul thing? Like, well, we've discovered it, and gosh darn it, oops, now we're going to fix it and everybody can go back to business?
No, I don't think so. But I think the people she plagiarized against are not going to let it drop. So I think no matter what Harvard decides, it's going to be pursued in other avenues.
I wonder what that looks like, though. Like, what's the consequence for plagiarism? Like, you sue them and you get, like, it's not like she made $1 million off this dissertation. It was just her vehicle to get some credibility through that PhD. What's the harm? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know how to answer
compensate
that.
it?
I know from the interview I heard from this woman, she said that her thesis wasn't even good enough to obtain her PhD without even with the plagiarism. So she has.
You know what, Kimmy? You've just highlighted something I hadn't even considered. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. The idea that they already lowered the bar to give her credit for a dissertation that even without the plagiarism wasn't good enough. That is fascinating.
Yes.
Huh. This is go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say I can't remember the name of the woman's name she plagiarized against. I know there were several besides her, but she's a PhD herself, some educational institute in Texas now. She's like, and I didn't see her face, but this is terrible for me to profile, but she sounded like a Black woman herself.
Interesting.
And she does something in Texas. I can't remember what institution she's at, but very high level educator herself. So I think,
Kimmy, this has been insightful. I'm going to try to go out and find that interview with that person, because I think that's an aspect of this story. I didn't even read about it in the Wall Street Journal. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Go ahead.
It was an interview with, it was on the Dennis Prager show like 2 days ago, except he had a fill-in. He says, Julie something, she has her own podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he does a regular show with her. She's great. Yeah.
Yeah, she's the one who did the interview with this woman. So if that helps.
So interesting. That does really help. Kimmy, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thanks for listening.
You too.
Take care. Hey, Kimmy's line is open at 303-696-1971. That is an interesting aspect of this I had not considered. But the thing that Kimmy brought up that I had not even thought about was this soft racism of low standards and low expectations. I mean, if she's just falling over the bare minimum threshold with her PhD dissertation as it is, and then they come to find out, oh, by the way, she's plagiarized the good parts. I don't know, man. What is going on? This is the kind of thing that makes me think, as a dude with higher education degrees, I mean, I have multiple degrees, economics, political science, law, strategic studies, which, by the way, is a master's degree in strategic studies from the Army War College. And I'm now starting to question, does it even matter anymore? If this is the direction that higher education has gone, is it worth your investment? One way to keep us from having to forgive a whole bunch of loans for ethnic studies and stuff is to just not send kids to college anymore. Do we need them? I don't know. That's probably a conversation for another day. 303-696-1971 is the number. There are a couple other stories I wanted to talk about just by reference. You call in and chime in if you want. Colorado taxpayers are set to receive an $800 refund on their state income taxes. First, thank you, Tabor. It is Tabor and Tabor alone that gives us any refund of the amount of monies that we overgive the government. But this is the part that's frustrating for me. It's redistribution of wealth. Now, don't get me wrong, not the idea of the refund, but what the legislature has done to it. The legislature has taken, in the Constitution, there is a 6-tiered system that, and this is equity, folks, this is equity. The more you pay in taxes, the more you get in refunded taxes. What? That's outrage. How can that make any sense? Well, that's what the legislature did. So the lefties under the gold dome have redistributed those taxpayer funds so that folks who don't pay in as much as you do get the exact same refund you do. And they want to cheer it on. And you know who would cheer them on? The people that didn't pay all those taxes in like you did. This is, again, the government trying to encourage support by redistributing your hard-earned effort and giving it to other folks. And you know, this is I saw, what's his name? I think his name was John or James, but he goes by Javier Mabry now, who's a representative. This is a guy who championed on X, formerly known as Twitter, the idea that this is fair because that $800 represents the taxes that they paid are a larger, not percentage, but a larger impact on their disposable income. Oh, okay. Well, then by that logic, a lesser tax refund would have a greater impact on them. That's not a justification for redistributing taxpayer funds that the Constitution said. And by the way, they're not doing it illegally. There's a way that they can go in by the law and change all that. But this nonsense from the people that wanted to kill off Tabor by their support of HH, and this dude was one of them, voted to kill off Tabor, now running to social media to say, hey, everybody, look what you get. You get $800. You're welcome. Like the government, just out of the goodness of its heart, decided to find money in these hard times. Yes, we've done nothing to help you, property owner, with the assessed values. But if you're a renter, 2 things we've done for you. We've given you rent support. We're throwing you more money we're giving you tax refund money you shouldn't get to begin with. And oh, by the way, we're going to make it harder for the people you contracted with to rent that property to get you out when you stop paying. You're welcome. Anyway, taxpayer refunds. Yeah. Do I want the $800? Yeah, but I want $1,000. I want whatever I'm entitled to under the Constitution, not this redistribution of wealth nonsense. There's some other stuff too that has taken place. There is a story in here. We'll get to this after a break. Let me do this. Let me cut away for a break. We'll let the phone lines get filled at 303-696-1971. Am I wrong, by the way, on the Tabor thing? Does that piss you off? Am I just making much to do about nothing? I mean, it's redistribution of wealth, right? But does it matter? It does to me. It's offensive. 303-696-1971. Let me tell you about Mitch Floria with The Art of Granite. Mitch is one of those guys who has somehow managed to not only become a craftsman and an expert in how to make your home beautiful by upgrading the countertops in your bathroom or your laundry room, your kitchen, a finished basement, whatever it is. This guy has combined that with a brilliant commitment to customer service and a business acumen that has made this business better and better year in and year out. And it's because of you. You hear ads like this and you pick up the phone and call this guy. You go and check out his website at theartofgranite.com. And that's a good place to go, but the website's deceptive because it just has the word granite, and they do so much more. The art of granite and the art of marble and the art of all the God-made stuff and all of the man-made stuff called quartz and other things. It's the art of all those things. But the business side is this guy wins your business, not just by the quality of the product and they stand behind it. Yes, they do all that. But he says, how about wholesale prices? And wait, if you tell him you're a George listener, wholesale prices plus I'll throw in the bathroom countertop for free with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're just doing one room, that's okay. I'll find a way to give you something free. How about the sink? I'll throw the sink in for free. That's the kind of thing that just nobody else does. They don't do it the way he does it. If you want to improve the appearance of the interior of your home, check them out at 303-386-5919. 303. That's the OG area code, by the way. 303-386-5919. That's theartofgranite.com. When we come back, your texts, your calls, we'll keep talking about the stories of the day. Let's treat it a little bit like Festivus. You got something on your chest? Get it off before you head into that family-filled holiday there. Stress-free, joy-filled. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Going to go right to the phone lines here. Rusty, you're on 710. Rusty, what do you think?
Hey, George, thanks for taking my call. First,
Sure.
the lady that I guess she was the previous caller, the lady she was thinking of was Carol Swain, who is a very prominent African-American conservative academic. And
she's the one that was the victim of the plagiarism.
Yeah, she's the one who's
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
on the news and whatnot, and was plagiarized, and it's been confirmed that it definitely was plagiarism. So the fact that just a couple of things, I'm going to try a couple of things to tie a couple things together that may not be tieable, but the left they just overreached so much. And I think or hope it's going to backfire. In this particular case, they're overreaching by not doing anything with this Gay. I can't remember her first name. Sorry,
Claudine Gay. Claudine Gay.
Yeah, Claudine, because it's so obvious. I mean, the two things together coming at the same time: the anti-Semitism and plagiarism, and they don't do anything. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And then the other thing is what happened to Trump with the Colorado Supreme Court. Honestly, I was hardcore about not voting for Trump in the primary, but I'm going to vote for him now. I'm going to vote for Trump in the primary because I'm just sick of this crap, and I want to, it's one vote, but I want to show my support for democracy, which is not what the Democrats are doing.
And not just support for democracy, but an opposition to this idea that the court can engage in this anomalistic sort of first of its kind in the history of the country removal of someone from a ballot based on this flawed to these tenuous arguments that just gong show
I haven't
stuff.
heard you weigh in on this, and I'm glad to hear what you just said, because I know you're no fan of Trump, and it's just a bridge too far, and they are. I do think this could really backlash on them, and I guess as I would understand it, and I'm not a lawyer or anything close to that, thank God.
Same.
And most people that know me, thank God about that too. It seems to me this could be the test case for the whole country, because there's like 17 states lining up trying to disqualify him from the ballot. And if he loses to if the Supreme Court overturns the Colorado decision, it would seem to me that would stop all those other states. I mean, they really wouldn't have a leg to stand on, at least if they're going on the same grounds. Would you assess that way as well?
Yeah, I think so. And we've done a couple days of shows on this, including yesterday. We talked a little bit more about some of the arguments that have been advanced. I kind of suggested that people, if they were interested, listen to this Advisory Opinions podcast with Sarah Isker and David French. You could do the same thing. It's great. And then the day before, I had Chris Murray on, who was actually one of the authors of an amicus filed on behalf of Donald Trump by the Republican National Committee and some other groups. And so, I agree with you. We've torn this thing apart as much as we can. I think you're right. The Supreme Court must make a decision here. They can't pass on this. And I presume the decision will be to overturn the decision. I just want it to be, on behalf of the country, 9-0. I just think for peace, we need 9-0. For the right outcome, we need 9-0.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you.
I was going to say, Rusty, forgive me, man. I've talked away some of your time there, but we only have a few seconds left. Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for calling in.
Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, sir. Hey, listen, when we come back, we've got Eric on the line as well. Of course, we're going to take Eric and anyone else that calls in at 303-696-1970. We're going to keep this conversation going. I'm going to just keep working my way through the paper and tell you about some stuff. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here. Final hour of the show before we get to that long Christmas holiday, and then I'm off on the 26th, so I will talk with you again after this hour on a Woden's Day, on Wednesday of next week. That's the 27th. Sadly, that's also the day many of the products I've ordered from Amazon apparently will show up, as originally they said, we'll get there before Christmas, we'll arrive before Christmas, and now it turns out that was a lie. They're not going to arrive before Christmas. And so we're going to have, I guess, a smaller Christmas Junior sometime in the middle of the week as these things begin to pile up. Here's something you can do for a loved one right now. A stocking stuffer, hear me out, and it's free. That is UltraCur. I'm telling you, you've heard me talk about this. This is an opportunity to go get something free, a 3-day free supply that's actually going to probably get you hooked on trying to get much more of it, which you can get at your natural grocers. And the reason you're going to give it is because you're giving them an opportunity to improve their health through just an all-natural, patented, curcumin-based supplement. Anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. I know it works because I've taken it. Billy has taken it, and more than the 3-day supply. All you need to do to get this little stocking stuffer for free, and it just sends a message, I'm thinking about you. By the way, if this is the only thing you get that loved one, they're leaving you. I'm just saying this is something to add on top of the other things that really speaks to their long-term health. It's not a thing, right? Go to your natural grocers, ask the vitamin manager, gotta ask the vitamin manager, and get your 3-day supply. And when it works, then you go back and you get the rest of it. Check them out at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Let's go right to the phone lines. We'll start with Eric. You're on 710 KNUS.
George, you great American. Hey, Rusty stole my thunder because I was going to answer.
Oh, no. What do you mean?
I text you. Yeah. About when I had text you, and I was going to tell you that was Carol Swain that Kimmy was trying to remember.
Yep. Yes, Carol Swain. And by the way, Mark Crowley, who's I can't believe he listens to the show, but he sent me a bunch of good information, like it's called juliehartmanshow.com, juliehartmanshow.com, and her podcast is called Timeless. So check that out if you want to do that interview, if you want to listen to that interview with Carol Swain. I also like the podcast Smartless, which is different. Anyway, go ahead, Eric.
Well, when Kim Munson was emceeing a function up there in Grand Lake, I sent you a photograph of me and Carol Swain and my wife taking photographs back in September. This September.
I did not know that that's the same person. I'm going to have to go back and look at those things that you texted in. Well, that's amazing. She was someone hold on. She's a conservative black woman who Dr. Claudine Gay, the first black president of Harvard, plagiarized. What? What kind of judgment is that?
Well, Claudine Gay gets away with a lot of stuff, just like Jean-Claude Pierre, whatever her name is, the secretary.
I think
spokeswoman for Biden. Wow, she's an idiot now.
It's Corinne Jean-Pierre, but Jean-Claude. Okay, well, Van Damme.
Anyway,
what
hey,
what
young
else,
man. Yeah. Like you, I got a beef with you. You're always on me about my capitalization on my text etiquette, so to speak.
It's not an etiquette
Mr.
thing.
Brauchler.
It's just, and for folks to understand, Eric goes through periods of time where he will text in all caps, which I think people broadly interpret as screaming. But then the other thing you do, and it must be difficult to pull off unless you preset something for it, but like every single word in a sentence is capitalized. And I'm like, wow, why the effort?
George, because I got a Verizon flip phone, and I would never give it up for nothing in the world. And I was taught in English class that every time you start another sentence, you're supposed to cap the letter.
Agreed.
You know.
Agreed.
Yes. Okay. Now we're good on that one. That's why I just
hold on. But you're capitalizing every word in the sentence.
Well, my kids get on me, and my wife gets on me on that. I just thought it was good for you guys to read it better.
If everybody in your life that gets those texts, Eric, is saying, hey, maybe you take a knee when it comes to capitalizing every word, I don't know. They're not trying to harm you with that advice. They're trying to make your life better.
Okay. Well, that was just my etiquette speech to you to just cap the first word after each letter, for each sentence. Okay, I want to get this off my chest because I know you got a million.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, here's what I want to say out there. Okay, I think Obama needs to be investigated because of this reason. Because if Joe Biden per se knew what Hunter Biden was doing, then I know for a fact in my heart of all hearts that Obama knew what Joe was doing, because Obama has no receipts for him to be dang near a billionaire. All these mansions, all these houses, everything that Joe Biden is basically having. Where's Obama's receipts to where he's gotten all that money, being a weak-kneed senator in Illinois at first and then a president? You don't make that kind of, you don't get that kind of stuff with his income.
First off, if you recall, man, and Eric, you probably read this thing. I did. I read this, but they had Dreams of My Father. Do you remember that? Dreams of My Father was his first book that he never wrote, but somebody wrote for him, and they put it out, and it was like it was genius on their part, big momentum building for his political future and all that stuff. That earned him a ton of money. The other things, though, and we just have to acknowledge this: when you reach the level of U.S. Senate or president or something like that, you are entering generational wealth time, not in office, but when you leave office, because of your connections, your perceived influence. There was a time back when Bill Clinton left office, so 100 years ago, where he and Hillary each were making like $400,000 for every 45-minute speech they gave or whatever it was. Are you kidding me? That's like multiple years' pay for Big Daddy to give a speech that lasts, about as much time as it takes me to eat dinner. That's craziness. But
George,
that is
as a black
endemic
man,
of what's going on. Yeah, go ahead.
You know how much I love Trump because I always text you. That's my dude. And there's a whole millions of black people out here regretting not voting for Trump last time around.
Several. Yeah.
And but this is the thing to me, young man, is that why can't they do to Obama what they're doing to President Donald Trump? He's no more in office. That means to investigate him. Follow the money.
For what, though?
How did he
for what?
Because birds of a feather flock together. If Biden did it, Obama did it. Because Obama, he was the vice president then. Obama was the president. And Burisma. Yes. Yeah. That's it. You're the smart lawyer on this. And Obama, it's a chain link. And if Vice President Biden was doing what he was doing over there in Ukraine and Burisma, when Trump wanted to investigate that, that's what scared them to death, because Trump was going to find out that Obama was connected with it. And this needs to be played out. And I don't know why.
Eric, is there evidence of that, or is that you just, doing the
speculating? Speculating, and that's what needs to happen. Can we talk
about that for a moment? When we speculate, that's fine, but it cannot be the basis for governmental action, right? Like if you're going to ask someone to conduct an investigation of Eric, they can't do it based off of their speculation that you've done something wrong. There's got to be something more, right? Otherwise, government runs amok. And right now, there's the perception that that's taken place, but we can't actually make it reality.
Well, Jay Sekulow and Tom Fenton, see, they have the power to do that with the resources that they have. I don't. This is just my commonsensical intuition. Obama is crooked as the back leg of a Chihuahua dog. And I know it. I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth. Nobody's going to talk me out of it, because Obama and then Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn, all that connection back in Illinois with Blagojevich. And then, you know what I'm saying, George? We can go way, 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 way back. And that's the dots that need to be connected. Because Blagojevich, I don't know how he was even got them 14 years. And Trump pardon
Well, he got
Blagojevich.
them for trying to sell the Senate seat.
Absolutely, he did. You and I both know that.
Yeah.
But then,
you can't
why
do that.
did Blagojevich get so many years to shut him up, to scare the
I don't
pants
think
off
so.
of him?
I think it was to punish him and to send a message to others that we just don't do it that way.
Yes, that's the message we need to send to Obama. Shoot. You know,
Listen, if there was
let's just get it
evidence,
on.
if there was evidence that he committed a crime that was still prosecutable these many years later, my presumption
They're afraid of him, George. That's my problem,
what's he
my
going to do?
brother.
How can they be afraid of him? What's he going to do? Call
Because
Oprah?
look what happened to his cook that could swim like Tarzan in the water. He drowned, for God's sake, and he's young, vibrant.
Why did they kill him, Eric? Let's get it out there.
That's what needs to be investigated. You great American. If they're going to do that
Eric,
hardcore
you've
investigation,
already concluded. Hold on, you've concluded he was murdered, and it's been covered up. And then you're saying, "Listen, this is my supposition. This is my speculation. Now we need to investigate it." Doesn't that
and the
feel
story
like
went
putting
away,
the cart before
George?
the horse?
The story went away so fast it'll make your head spin. Where is it at?
What happened to
never
the
should have
police that
stopped.
investigated it? Did they got paid off or something?
They're afraid of Obama's machine, big baby. Period.
He has a machine.
I wouldn't. Well, yeah, you know, that's layman's terms, political terms. Just like everybody was afraid of that dude that owned that island, Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Epstein, yep.
And then,
by the way,
and then
that's
we
an
got-
interesting
yes,
thing.
sir.
His little black book is coming out, or something like that. Like, with the exception of 3 names that are being obscured in the book, and I'm interested to know why they're being obscured.
Yeah, the
we're going to
senator
get to
from
know.
Tennessee, she's bringing that out.
Blackberry. We're going to get to know all of those folks. Yeah, we're going to get to know all those folks. I'm
I
kind
want
of anxious
Obama
to
so
see who's
bad,
on
my
there.
brother. I
You
want
think he
Obama
went to that
so
island?
bad I can put him in. He probably. Well, I don't know if that's his cup of tea. 'Cause
Yeah, I
they're
don't think
saying
so.
that, you know, he likes P. Diddy and and Will Smith, guys.
For the love of God,
I don't know how true that is,
For
but
the love
you know,
of God, man. Dude's married with
it's
daughters.
been
Come
fun.
on.
Well, yeah, but still, you know, that my wife says that's just a front. You know,
Wait a minute.
It's in
What
the-
if people were
it's-
saying, Eric, this your wife and your kids, they're a front for you for your other stuff you got going on? What would you say?
I can prove my masculinity. Obama, you know,
You know
I've
what, I
heard
believe
rumors about him. He's in
Rumors.
he's
Listen, only
he's in
because
the
it's a
limelight.
Festivus-like environment. I get the rumors and the speculation, but
I want
thank you for acknowledging
Obama
that's
so
all there.
bad, George. I want Obama bad, man.
Listen,
because
people
he's
hear
the
you say, "I
crookedest
want
thing.
Obama so bad," and all of a sudden they're not sure which
I
way
mean,
you're going.
to be investigated. I want the dots to be connected. Yes. Yeah, because I don't care how you try to sugarcoat it, young man. You know what I mean. I want him in front of Congress. I want him under the sweat hot lights, as they used to say. I want him being questioned, you know, because he's a civilian now.
Yeah,
and
he
Obama
sure
is quiet as a church mouse. Why is he so quiet about this stuff?
Because it doesn't involve him.
Silence is a pure. I can't say you white guys' words, but I wished I could.
Hold on, you white guys' words.
silence-
Use the words you'd use, Eric. Use is it
smart
black guys'
words.
words? Like, use those words.
Okay. Well, you know, Obama is silent because if he gets out there in the limelight talking, people are going to catch him to say the wrong things, just like with that hot mic when he said about Jesse Jackson's, you know, testicles. When Jesse Jackson
I
said
don't
he
know.
liked to
Listen,
cut Obama's
again,
testicles
I have no idea how we got here from wherever it was I thought the show was going only moments
It
ago.
needs
But Eric,
to be
you have
said, Mr. Brauchler. It needs to be said because Jesse Jackson came out and said he would love to cut his testicles off, man, and then that's the way we all feel about Obama.
Why?
But it's been
Listen,
fun.
all the talk of your masculinity in the front for this, you say things like, I really want Obama, and start referencing his testicles. And all of a sudden people are going to be like, methinks he doth protest too much, which of course is a reference to Hamlet. What?
I can't say what I really want to say because as black folks, we need to use some profanity to get our point across. But I just want
this is
Obama
Eric
to
Ice
be
Cube Manning. Thank you,
investigated.
buddy. I get it, and thank you so much for bringing some levity to the show in the 9 o'clock Festivus hour here. Eric, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and we'll talk with you in the new year. That's Eric's line is open at 303-696-1971. Let me do a live read. We're going to keep working the phones. And G, would you tell me, I cannot read my own handwriting. Who else did you say was on the phone? I'm going to get to Jason and Mark. I am. But first, I got to do something. And that little something is to tell you about Brent and Joyce Tolliver. If you hadn't heard me say this before, they were in my house last week. No, not as burglars. With my permission, I was there. They went through all the cabinets in my house. They went through the kitchen and the bathroom and the laundry room. And I wish I had some in the garage, but I don't. But they do that too. And they said, look, here's what we can do in this to make this usable. Now, I have some cabinetry that has some rollout shelves in them already, but only a couple, right? And they're like, look, this is how we can do this. This is how we can position this one to be. This is how we can work with the plumbing underneath the sink in your bathroom to make this thing more usable. It's exciting. They sent me an estimate. I'm going through right now trying to figure out this is what I'm going to do to give my house a little Christmas gift or in the New Year's. You've got to do the same thing. All you have to do to get the benefit of some of the nicest, most professional people that you're going to get is to give them a look at rollemoutshelves.com. Go see some of the great, they have videos about what their installers do. They don't subcontract with anybody. They just have employees, which I love even more. That's just a greater level of accountability and commitment. Rollemoutshelves.com, roll-M-E-M, rollemoutshelves.com, or call them at 303-475-9601, 303-475-9601. In the interest of being able to take callers as long as we can have the conversation, I don't want to run up against a break. Let's do this. Let's cut away for a break, G. When we come back, Jason, Mark, anybody else calling in at 303-696-1971, and I'll review the text as well. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Full lines, Jason, Mark, and Gary. I promise we'll get to you. Listen, this is going to be the last couple segments. I get a chance to give you some great advice before you head into this long Christmas weekend, because I'm not back until next Wednesday, the 27th. If you don't have that gift you need, and now I'm thinking about maybe I need to do another one of these things, is beau visage. And I'm saying that because I told you at the 6 o'clock hour, I got hosed by the post office down here in Castle Rock, who has this total a-hole that works for them, that continues to reject packages or send them back when they don't fit his particular definition of what the rules are. Very officious guy, probably on the spectrum somewhere. And you would think working in a post office would mean that he couldn't harm anybody, but he does. Nonetheless, if you're stuck like me and you're like, oh my God, what do I do now? It's a last minute thing. I need this gift. The best place to go with that phone call, with that effort, is Beau Visage Skincare and Spa. These folks have been doing it for so many years. It's not the first time you ever heard of Beau Visage. It's not the first time you've heard of their website, bvspa.com. That's where you go to check out all their offerings. And what you do is you get that certificate for the someone you love, and you stick it in a huge box and wrap it, or stick it in a stocking, or it just shows up with some other gift. You are giving an experience, a stress-free, joy-filled, pleasurable experience. Here's the hook. Here's the risk. You do it this year, they're going to expect it every year thereafter. It's that awesome. Give them a call at 303-779-5002, 303-779-5002. Here's what my recommendation: half-day spa treatment. Half-day, it has a whole bunch of things in it, and the catered lunch. Do that for those special someones in your life, bvspa.com. Let's get right back to the phone lines. It's Jason. Jason, you're on 710 KNUS. Jason, what do you think?
Hey, George, Merry Christmas. Thank you for taking my call.
Merry Christmas. Yeah, for sure.
I agree with you 100% that I think, Trump taking his Colorado fight to the Supreme Court is important. As much as I would love it to be voted down 9-0, I don't think it's going to make a difference to the low information voter, because they don't understand the significance. If they don't understand the significance of taking him off the ballot at the state level in Colorado, escalating it up, I don't think they're going to understand the difference. And I always say people don't know the three branches of government, but they know what the Kardashians did last week. And
yeah, well, that
when you're
part is true, man. You're right.
When you're dealing with a disconnect, and we both know the difference between ignorance and stupidity. And when you're dealing with a disconnect of ignorance at that level, going to the Supreme Court, yeah, it'll serve the function, but I don't think it's going to make a difference. People already have their mind made up that, holy cow, Trump needs to be taken off of, off the ballot.
I just don't like the disenfranchisement. And you've heard it from callers here who have said throughout the show, and the others that we've done over the past couple of days, they're like, look, I'm not even a Trump guy, but if they try to do this, hell yeah, I'm going to support him, or I'm going to vote for him through the primary. Not because I love Trump, but because I am absolutely opposed to the idea that some judges are going to sit there and tell me you don't get the right to vote for a guy who's already served as president and who's the front runner for the next one. It is disenfranchisement. This is, and I don't want it to sound like conspiratorial, but it is interference with the election. I don't mean it in the context that many people do, but it is interference with an election when you keep Americans from voting for someone for president based off of this first-time application of a section that likely doesn't even apply to him.
And if you could ask the callers that call in and say that said that they're actually switching, ask them what they think about the Roe v. Wade decision was, because my sister, who I love to death, and actually she's about to become a Colorado resident. She's leaving Texas because she hates Abbott down there, and she was so staunch against the overturning of Roe v. Wade. But I posed it to her as a Second Amendment person, and they're not direct correlations, because obviously the Second Amendment, we're dealing with a right versus Roe v. Wade is not a right. I told my sister, I said, I don't want the ability of the federal government to decide whether I can conceal carry at the federal level, because when you start putting it at that level, your freedoms actually are taken away. People don't understand the difference between state and federal rights. So the people that say that, yes, they would vote for Trump because of what the judges are deciding. I'd be interested to hear what their take is on Roe v. Wade. Do they agree with that? Because to me, that would be a good metric to figure out, okay, do they really understand the multifaceted layers of government?
Interesting. Hey, Jason, man, thanks for taking time out of your pre-Christmas weekend
Love
here
your
to
show.
give us a call. Yeah, thanks, man. Hey, Jason's line is open at 303-696-1971. G has some sound that Mark Crowley found for us about the Julie Herman show where she interviewed Carol Swain, who apparently is in a picture that our good friend Eric sent me from earlier in the year. G, you got that sound?
And so this moral relativism has reached the point that there is no right or wrong, and Harvard thinks it gets to say, and it's decided that plagiarism is okay if it is done by someone that comes through their system. And I can tell you that Claudine Gay has had a world-class education. She went to Phillips Exeter Academy. She was an undergraduate at Stanford and Princeton, and she has a Harvard degree. I mean, she's had a world-class education. We should not make excuses for people. We should hold them accountable. She needs to be held accountable, and she needs to do the right thing, and that's step down. It's not about me. It's so much bigger than me. It really isn't about me. It's about American education and about our standards.
Wow, that's impressive. That is Carol Swain. Now, someone had called in and said she was actually the one who had been plagiarized. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it doesn't matter because her points are well made. This is a woman. I had just said, hey, she's a PhD and she's, the head of Harvard. She knows about citations. It's even worse than that. Princeton, Stanford, Exeter is one of those schools you and I can't afford to send our kids to ever. So she's had every opportunity in the world. And now it's like, oops, did I forget to carry the two? Or did I forget a quotation? I mean, come on. This is that soft racism of low standards and low expectations. What do you think about that? 303-696-1971. Mark, you're on 710. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, George.
Hey, Mark.
I'm just going to make a comment about the renters and property taxes.
Sure.
I'm a homeowner and I have investment property. So basically, the renters are paying my mortgage, HOA, and property taxes, and then a small profit. So basically, if they get money, that's fine with me because they can use it to pay the rent or maybe save it to buy a home. So I really don't have a problem with them getting, some of the money.
Well, I don't mind taxpayers getting back Tabor refunds. I don't mind that part. Is that what you were calling about? Are you talking about what the legislature did when they decided, let's provide relief for people that don't actually pay property taxes?
Well, I mean, in reality, renters do pay property taxes. Whether it's an individual investor like myself, they pay the mortgage, they pay the property taxes, they pay the HOAs, they pay all that.
The renters?
Of course they do. What do you think the rent is? Where does that come from?
They're paying rent. They're not paying the property taxes. The landowner.
Yeah, they are. They're paying it. Yeah, the landowner's paying it, but he's passing it on to them. That's what the rent is. The rent includes the mortgage payment, the HOA, and the property taxes. Because nobody's going to list or rent their property and take a loss, even though they're owning it for appreciation down the road.
They would take a loss rather than getting zero on the rent. That happens. But how do you logic through this, man, in this way? You offer relief to the renters, not the property owners. Then what do you do for the property owners? They still have to pay that money. They still have to. They're paying the increased valuation of that property. Where do they go to recover that cost? Because you've just now made it so that renters get the benefit. I mean, I don't understand how the renters have an agreed upon rent. If it's just, hey, every single expense the property owner has gets passed along to them, therefore they're paying it. Well, then, man, that means everybody's paying taxes that aren't paying taxes. Like I pay an income tax. Some people don't. They shouldn't get a Tabor refund. There should be no tax credit for someone that doesn't pay taxes. And yet by your logic, you'd say, well, they buy stuff out there and those things have taxes to them, so they should get a tax refund too. Do you believe that?
No, what I'm saying is that I have a mortgage and I have HOA and I have property taxes. I pass those all to renters. They pay that. and then I may make a small profit on it. My goal is to own the property so it appreciates down the years, so that when I sell it, I have a profit. But they're paying everything for me.
But if your property taxes go up, what do you do then to make sure you don't go in the red?
Rent. Increase the rent.
Okay, so you increase the rent. So aren't you doing a solid to the renters by cutting the property taxes for the landowners, so you're not passing that cost along to them?
No, I mean, it would be great not to have to pay the property taxes, but remember that Colorado ran off all the oil producing income. So they had to come back and make it up somehow. And they made it up on property taxes. You knew that was going to happen. Colorado has, as far as oil production, has dropped dramatically. They ran them all off. They went to Texas and Oklahoma and every place like that.
That's part of it, man. But the other part of it is voters savaged the Gallagher Amendment. And now they're shocked that their residential property values have gone through the roof. It was that 55-45 split that had been in the Constitution forever. And they blew it up. And now you reap what you sow. But this is part of this big government mentality. But I'm just not convinced that the right relief goes to the renters. The relief should go to the productive piece. That's the property owners. They're the ones that are making the land valuable. The renters aren't. It's the property owner that is. They're the ones that should get the relief. And it would benefit the renters because now you don't have to pass that cost on to them in higher rents.
Well, if the state of Colorado didn't run off the oil companies, then they ran off all that revenue, so they had to make it up somehow. So they increased property taxes.
Well, they're not really increasing property taxes. They're not. They're not increasing property taxes. It's the property taxes are tied to the valuation of the property, and property values have gone through the freaking roof. And so what they're doing is not offering relief. And they scuttle attempts by, we heard Commissioner George Teal yesterday from Douglas County say, well, we wanted to cut property assessed values across the board, lottie-dottie, everybody, 4%. And the libs up there in Denver and their handpicked compatriots decided, no, Douglas County shouldn't do that because it's unfair to who? I mean, it's just nonsense. Hey, man, I appreciate the phone call. I got to get another call in before we go. But Mark, thank you for this. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thanks for listening. Thanks for having the conversation. We'll keep it going next week too. Mark's line is open 303-696-1971. Hey, let's get to Gary. Gary, you're on 710. What do you think, Gary? Hello, Gary. You don't say. That is fascinating. G, is Gary on the line or are you drunk again at the helm?
Oh, hi, George. Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you now, man. I don't know. The reception in that bar is ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. I got to tell them to turn it down in here.
What's going on, man?
Well, I'm envious of you that you'll be able to have conversations with all of your wonderful children this Christmas holiday. I hope they'll all be back.
Oh, they are. They're all back.
It must be fascinating to listen to Amanda interact with your boys.
It is. She's still big sister. Yeah, she's still big sister. So it's not like, and again, she's also still just 21. So, you know, when she's not locked in her room, either asleep or TikToking or whatever, you know, she's around and she's such a great girl. But she's also got friends that are back in town, and you know what that looks like. Yeah, I remember those days. Hey, listen, with your boy who's, if this is a little too personal, we can move on. But your boy who has some physical challenges, have you ever thought about bringing him up to Winter Park for some ski lessons? You know what? You're the second person over the course of the last few years to bring that up. I haven't done that yet. And I definitely ask him. I mean, there were times before he was diagnosed where, you know, I took the kids all skiing and we do lessons and stuff. And I watched him struggle with it, but I thought it was like when I struggle with it, like it was a balance issue, but it was a balance issue that was tied to this inherent leg weakness from the muscular dystrophy that we didn't even know about. And I think that experience was so negative for him and it was so off-putting. I haven't revisited that with him in years, but you know what, that's an idea, because I do know Winter Park has that awesome program up there to help those, including disabled veterans and stuff, get back on the slopes. Well, you know, there's a lot. I've been an instructor up there for years, and we have a lot of great adaptive equipment, and you know, we can accommodate whatever
it to his liking. So anyway, give it some thought.
No, that's a great idea, man. That's a great idea. What did you think about any of these other things out there that we've been talking about?
I wanted to talk about anti-Semitism a little bit.
Yeah, please do.
You know, I don't I mean, the brutality of what the Hamas did in Israel, you know, that's unbelievable. There's a special place in hell for people who would act like that. But I think, and I don't understand anti-Semitism either, but I think, and this is my viewpoint, a lot of these students, protesters, etc., a lot of them are probably not anti-Semitists in that they're not looking to, you know, eliminate the earth of Jewish people. I think a lot of them just don't trust that it, and this is my position too. I don't trust that Israel is doing everything that they could do to limit the amount of Palestinians that are being killed. I mean, they're up to like over 20,000, and they try to explain it as, oh, those are Hamas's numbers, don't trust them. And, you know, we're doing things to limit that. And yet the numbers go up and up. And I know that one thing I read about was where they were flooding the tunnels. And that seemed to me, you know, then I understood, okay, that's a great way to limit those kinds of innocent victims. But I just don't trust Netanyahu, and that Israel is doing everything possible to eliminate the killing of innocent people.
Well, why the ceasefire? Why give them advance warning? Remember when they got kind of like to the gates or to the walls, and then they stopped and they sent out messages like, "Hey, everybody, run to the other side of the room," or whatever. You know what I mean? Why do that? If it's a matter of just wantonness in terms of whether the innocent people live or die, why engage in any of that? Because you put your own troops at risk when you do it.
Yeah, I don't think a ceasefire is the right answer. I think they need to explain how they are, you know, targeting Hamas, and, you know, and how they're going to decrease the number of Palestinians that are being killed. These people, they don't have anywhere to hide anymore. Where are they going to go? You know, they give them notice, but they can't get there.
I presume that the Hamas folks are hiding amongst them. I mean, that's what they've been doing all along. Schools, hospitals, all that stuff. And, you know, when we see those videos of the tunnels and they fly, I'm thrilled with that. That tells me that they're out there probably making a difference in terms of reducing the opportunity for Hamas to come back. But I don't know how you conduct anything like this without collateral damage. And I don't mean that as a dismissive term. I mean that as an actual term for warfare. You cannot have something like this without innocents being killed, no matter what you do. And so if the only answer is stop the fighting, peace, negotiated outcome, would you do that if you were Israel? Would you trust people that would cut the heads off of babies, put it on a video, and brag about it on social media? What negotiation could you have with them other than their own manner of death? Do you want it quick? Do you want it slow? Like, what negotiation could you have, Gary?
I don't know, George, but I just think, I guess it's you know, it's a difficult problem, but maybe they're just not, Israel or the president isn't explaining how they're mitigating the loss of Palestinians well enough. I know that they're scattered throughout, but if they can't do it without killing, you know, eliminating the Palestinians off the face of the earth, it's just wrong. And but a ceasefire isn't the answer. It's I guess a lower amount of fire.
I would love it too Gary, I'd love it if the Palestinians came out and said, we hate Hamas too. Get rid of these bastards. They're the ones that are turning our country into this, you know, carpet bombing environment or whatever. Like, where are all the people that are standing up for Palestine to say, get rid of Hamas, end Hamas now? Well, they're not saying that. It's all about Israel, Israel, Israel. Well, hang on. You think Israel's wrong to go after Hamas? If you don't, then what do we do to get rid of Hamas? I want them to take a much more aggressive posture against Hamas, denounce Hamas. And when they don't, it makes you feel like they're okay with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right.
It's just interesting. Right. Hey, Gary, have a Merry Christmas, man. And thanks for the advice on the Winter Park thing. I'll bring it by Trey. I'll run it by him.
And Peter Boyles can talk to you about that as well.
Awesome, man. Hey, Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you next week or in the new year. Hey, Gary's line is open at 303-696-1971. We got to cut away for our last break. I want to remind you once again, just because we're at that point in the year, you're running out of time to do the super awesome things for your family, your loved ones, and your house. And one of those super awesome things is the Roll 'em Out Shelves. Brent and Joyce Tolliver. It's a family-owned business, and one, I love that. There's nothing wrong with the big faceless corporations, of course. But the mom and pop, or in this case, the mom and son shops, aren't those the best, man? They just give you a different level of customer service because they are legitimately your neighbors. They're the folks that show up and say, here's how you make your house awesome. They already did it to mine. They already showed up last week and did that. I'm in the process now of figuring out which ones I can do in the fastest amount of time. Check out what they have. They have all these videos and stuff from their staff that put these installations in. Super easy, super fast. Check them out at rollemoutshelves.com. rollemoutshelves.com. You can also call them 303-475-9601, 303-475-9601, and they come out to your house, not just some other person. Brent and Joyce come out to your house and tell you how you can make the house even awesomer by capitalizing on functionality you didn't think could exist for those cabinets in your kitchen, your bathroom, your laundry room, or anywhere else that you have them. That's rollemoutshelves.com. Going to cut away for one more break. When we come back, we'll get whatever calls and texts that we have. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, trying to wrap up this show before Christmas. We're back on camera. I got behind me here, if you're looking at it, there's two of the boys right there. That's Grammy, who's right behind me, and that other tall cup of whatever that is Jeff right there. Boys, quick say Merry Christmas to the good folks out there.
Merry Chrysler.
Merry Chrysler? I have no idea what you're talking about, but you know who might? Alexa. You're on 710. Alexa, what do you got?
Hey, George. First of all, huge shout out for a great 20 hours and high five for Jim, Michael, and Geronimo filling in this week.
Oh, amen to that.
For you
Good
and
point.
putting up with you. So, God forbid. people
Even
putting up with
remotely,
you.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And a reminder for all your listeners that might have listened to that guy in the afternoon, his podcasts are only up for another week if you want to grab any of those. So.
Stefan Tubbs?
Stefan Tubbs. Yeah.
Listen,
so,
I want to get myself a gift of that castor oil stuff for Christmas. I just haven't done it yet, but I found it on Amazon, so I'm going to do that.
okay.
Try to make myself look like I'm only in my 70s.
Hexane-free, cold press, organic, and mix it with frankincense, and you can also add black seed oil to it.
All of a sudden,
you
this
want
has
to
turned into like Gift of the Magi or something like that. I don't know what's going on there. Hey, Alexa, I got to let you go. We've just run out of time, but Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for making it such a special year.
You have a wonderful holiday, and for the entire Brauchler gang, and I hope Amanda might show up still, but we'll see.
I hope so too. Hey, Geronimo, how much time we got? 20 seconds. That's only enough time to say Merry Christmas to Billy, who's not here, UG, James, Kelly, Mark, Lewis, everybody at the 710 family. We'll be back next week, just not till Wednesday. Stick around for the rest. 710 KNUS.